everyone, and welcome back to the show. So tonight, I'm really excited because I have Nadia and Chris from the Inside All Day podcast with me, and we're going to do a Blade retrospective. So I'm not going to waste time. I'm going to bring Nadia and Chris in now. Hello to you both.
Hello,
Ahoy!
interwebs.
Ahoy. How's your days been? Good days?
Oh right, it's
Yeah, it's
11:30 here. It's not
definitely still
even
day
noon.
here.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we still got a smidgen of daylight in the old UK.
What
Um,
time does sunset
Over the
happen by
pond.
you?
It's happening nowish. Yeah,
Okay,
it'll be dark by about 8, a little after 8 now.
That's not too bad.
No. It's summertime is great because like it's daylight. Well, I like it. It's daylight like 4:30 in the morning, and then we'll stay daylight till about 10. And it's
Wow.
like the further north you are, like if you're up in Scotland, you'll get daylight from like 3 in the morning until midnight. Like you can look at a friend of mine takes pictures at like midnight, and it feels like what you would imagine like 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night to be like. There's still like that much. It's awesome. I love it. Yeah.
That's really cool. I don't know if I could live like that though. But here in Vegas, so there's always light, especially around where we're at in the middle of the desert, because there's so much light surrounding us that we have to have blackout lights.
Yes.
Hey,
Hello,
Vader.
Matt.
Blackout curtains. Hey Vader.
How's it going, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily we don't have to do the blackout stuff. That would drive me nuts. I'm pleased that we don't have to do that. Anyway, Blade. Let's chat
Blade.
some Blade. So before we get into it, full disclosure, it probably feels hypocritical saying this. I'm a big Marvel fan. I'm a big comic book fan. I have not seen and read every single comic or movie, and for some reason, over the years, Blade has been one of the movies that I just never got around to seeing. I remember back, I think at university, I started Blade. So the opening, I remember. I've seen the opening like at least 2 or 3 times, but I've never finished the film. So then we were talking like, let's do a show, let's chat about some stuff. And then we just landed on Blade. I was like, that's perfect because I've not seen it and I've heard so many good things about it. So I have, as of today, I've seen Blade for the first time and I'm excited to talk about it. There's a lot of things that I like.
Yes. Golf
things
clap
that
for
are-
you.
Yeah. Things that are interesting, things that I'm like, well, this is like totally influencing X, Y, and Z, but we'll get into that in due time. I want to know about your first experiences watching Blade.
Oh, I watched Blade in high school, like when it first came out. I remember I was a gothic kind of emo kid, so kind of fit the bill. But it's interesting to me that this is your first watch. When yesterday, when I was on Salty, they gave me crap for not seeing The Crow, and that also is. You have never seen The Crow? I have to.
It's okay.
I have
We'll
to
come
see
back
it.
together for a Crow episode.
Yeah, maybe we'll come back for a Crow
episode.
A Crow episode.
Love it. Episode.
I haven't seen Blade in years either. But
Yeah,
and
it's been a hot minute.
I remember iconic scenes from it. And when we were rewatching it, I took some notes. I can definitely see the influence for a lot of other movies that Blade started off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Yes. What about you, Chris?
You know, I was not always the fine specimen you see before you, and I used to be pretty chicken shit about anything like horror, thriller-y, right, Nadia?
Horror.
And so I'm pretty sure I did not see it in theaters, but I saw it when it came out to, VHS, DVD,
Right.
whichever one it would have been at that time, probably DVD by the time I got to it. But yeah, it I think it holds up pretty dang well over time. When you're looking at where things are now and where they came from, it's pretty interesting to see that Blade was kind of like the first real mainstream breakthrough Marvel film.
Yes. I mean, what's hilarious to me is and it was something I was gonna mention earlier is a few years ago, obviously when Black Panther came out, everyone was heralding Black Panther as this it's the first movie with a black superhero,
Blade.
and I'm like, wait a minute. Does no one remember the 90s? Like, not only we had Blade, but we also had that shitty Steel movie. They
You can even include Spawn in that too. He's an anti. That's one of my favorite movies. It does not hold up, but it is one of my favorite movies.
It holds up if you've seen it before.
Yes, it holds up if you've seen it before, but if it's a first watch, I don't think it holds up for people.
Yeah. So it was also again thinking about when because we were chatting about this earlier, but like when Deadpool came out, it was like it's the first R-rated Marvel movie, and it's like it's not. And what's so interesting to me is even at that time, without even seeing Blade, the arguments about how well, Blade wasn't really a comic; it was an adaptation of a comic book, and I'm like, what are all these effing movies? They're all adaptations.
Yeah, they're not
It's all
exact
an
of what the
adaptation.
comic is. Yeah.
Come
It's
on.
the internet. They don't care. They just want you to be wrong and them to be right.
Yeah.
Exactly, and they don't remember that life happened before 2010. Like,
Yeah.
What? No, it didn't.
The best
No.
movies happened in the
Lies.
90s, late 90s, folks.
They
Just
did.
to let you know.
The
All
best
right,
movies, the best shows, 80s, 90s, bam.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
You get a couple gems
wonderful.
nowadays, just a couple of them here and
Here
there,
and there.
Yes,
but it's
yes.
not like the bangers that they put out back then, especially
Would
with
you say like
movies.
the Dungeons and Dragons movie, Nadia?
Well, yeah, but I would say also like back then, movie going was a big deal. The internet
true.
wasn't as big as it is. Streaming didn't exist, so going to a movie was affordable, and it was like an event. You would go with
Yeah.
your friends. I mean, I would movie hop in high school, where you buy one ticket and then you
Right.
movie hop to another
Ah.
movie. So we would go. So my parents would drop us off, and we would go see 3 movies in one Saturday.
Haram.
For the
Yeah,
price of one.
For the price of one, because back then they didn't have assigned seating. So
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes,
that too.
Yes. That was one of the most beautiful things when I moved to the UK and went to the cinema, and they were like, "Pick your seat." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "You mean you get to pick a seat and no one can take it? Like you just get a seat?"
There's pros to it, but the con I feel of it is I miss those times where we would have to line up like an hour or two before a movie, or when I think it was Captain America: Winter Soldier. Chris is a big Captain America fan, and he was working at the time, and I was off, so I went.
Oh, that's
like
right. You had to
5
go stand in
hours
line.
ahead time
Gosh.
and stand in line.
I
to
forgot
get
about that.
not for tickets. We had tickets already, but to get
Oh, this is to get the primo seats.
primo seating
Yes.
at it. Yeah. But I mean, those
Captain
are
America
fun.
worth that? Is Captain
But then
America worth that?
Winter Soldier is.
Winter Soldier is. That's the best
First
Marvel film in
Avenger, I don't know.
existence.
But it also lets you talk to other people.
MCU
It's like,
film, maybe.
know.
Not Marvel film.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll get
All
there.
right.
We'll get there.
That's
We'll take
Chris's
that later.
favorite Marvel film. So you guys go ahead. Battle
Yeah,
it out.
I never really did any movie hopping, unlike my wife with a clearly criminal background. The closest I think I ever did was when we used to have the AMC Movie Pass, and so we would go see other things when Endgame came out.
All right.
And we would always show up early, and almost without fail, we would always show up like right for the final battle. So we go like watch the final battle, and then go wherever movie we're actually seeing.
Nice.
That was a good little movie hopping experience.
Yeah.
So, Blade.
Yes, 1998.
Let's get back to Blade. So, directed by
dig
Stephen
into
Norton, written by David S. Goyer. I didn't realize that going in. When I like to just kind of watch the film and see the names pop up. If it's one that I don't know, I just like to kind of be surprised by that.
Makeup by Greg Canyon too.
Yes.
Who did the Shadow?
Oh right.
Yeah.
The Shadow knows.
The Shadow knows.
It was interesting because I don't know what's your take on David S. Goyer these days.
What has he done recently?
I mean, I automatically go back and think about like the Dark Knight movies, which Batman Begins is the best. I'll fight anyone over that.
Oh, really? Out of the 3 of them, you think Batman
Interesting.
Begins? Interesting take. Oh,
I do.
the internet's gonna hate you now.
I can handle it.
Um,
I mean, he did the screenplay for. He did the story and screenplay for Terminator: Dark Fate.
Oof, that's rough.
What else has he done here? I'm scrolling through. Apparently, he's written on Krypton. He wrote
Man of
Batman v
Steel.
Superman. Yeah, Man of Steel.
I like Man of Steel, and I'll fight anybody for that one.
Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance.
Okay,
Oh,
maybe I've
boy.
lost.
So I was when I saw that, I was like, okay, people have said this movie's good, and I know that he has written things that I've enjoyed. So let's just see what happens. So that was the first kind of bit of like, okay, find out. But the other thing I was happy about was like I looked at the runtime and it was a solid 2 hours.
2 hours, yes.
I'm like, oh, I miss Short films.
Listen. I'll bring.
Do it, Nadia.
If your movie, tell your movie in 90 minutes. Tell your movie
Yes.
in 90 minutes, and then
Yes.
give us the director's cut extended version when
Totally.
it comes to digital stream,
Sure.
or give me intermissions.
Yes.
One or the other.
Yes.
One or the other. Either be creative
Absolutely.
and be able to write your movie in 90 minutes and direct it and stuff,
Yes.
or give me intermissions.
I
That's all I'm
agree.
asking for. My bladder just needs a break. That's it. It's one of the reasons why we didn't go see Oppenheimer. I was
Fair
like, 3 hours plus long. I was
Yeah,
like,
no.
I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore.
No, I went and saw Mission Impossible this summer, and I had to go for a piss before the goddamn credits began, before like the theme song kicked in, because there was like 30 minutes of adverts, and then it's like the opening is like 20-30 minutes already.
I have to prep. I have to go like when we get to the theater right before the beginning of it, and then I have to make sure I don't drink a ton of water. Like 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours is good too. Like Vader said, 2 hours is good. But
I agree.
after that, I need to pee as well. Give me an intermission. And it doesn't have to be long, 10, 15 minutes.
No.
It would make movie theaters money too. People fill up their popcorn, get more candy, whatever. Yeah.
But then Hollywood needs to put more thought into like a break point, and that's more work on them. So it's never going to happen.
You know what? Give me that job. I will review your movies and I will tell you where you can put a break. It's usually right before the climax or right after the climax. You can break it.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So back to Blade. So the opening. Let's kind of go. Let's kind of go on.
Before we get into that,
Yes.
I read a really interesting fun fact about it.
Mm.
Marvel had
It
this.
was real blood.
Yes, Marvel was in productions with this before it was moved over, and I know everybody knows that Lawrence Fishburne was a contender for it, and I think Denzel Washington. But I guess when it was first in production, they were looking at LL Cool J to play Blade.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's a very different movie.
It's a
would have
very
been
different
different movie. I
Yeah.
don't know if that would have.
I don't think if it would have gotten
sustained.
a sequel.
No,
or a
No.
third one.
no. Oh, absolutely not.
All right, but sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So
Let's do this.
the first scene, the rave scene.
Mhm.
I love this scene. It goes full on. I'm assuming everyone who is watching this knows what I'm talking about. You've probably seen the film. If not,
The opening bloodbath. Yeah.
they go to this secret underground rave under this like butcher shop or whatever, and just the sprinkler system goes off and they're just pouring blood on everyone, and it's just this vampire, orgasm of joy, a joygasm. And then there's this poor guy who's about to get eaten, and I recognized him. He was in an episode of Smallville, and I got to bring up Smallville every
That's
podcast.
all right. We have to bring up Dresden Files
Dresden
for
Files.
D&D
There you go.
every episode, so we get it.
Yeah. And I was like, because I was watching with a friend, I was like, oh my god, I know that guy. He's like, where from? I was like, where is it? And then I was like, oh my god, he was like a weird older guy who was hanging out with like a teenager in Smallville. It was just
Yikes.
bizarre. But yeah, so I love that scene. And then when Blade comes in and just starts kicking ass, I'm like, everything about this opening I thought was perfect. What stood out to you for the opening?
Chris, you can take this one first.
So for the opening, I mean, it's kind of classic, it's iconic, it's well paced.
Yeah.
The coloring and lighting and everything on that whole scene is just phenomenal. And then of course you start breaking down the action, and it's a good thing they didn't go with LL Cool J, with Wesley Snipes having some of that martial arts background. I think being a big help.
Yes.
And for a lot of that movie.
Yes. What I loved about this opening was there was such an immediate presence from Wesley Snipes' Blade. I love the way he just like kind of creepily smiles every once in a while.
Oh, the humor in this is fantastic. The little bit, yes. The opening,
it's like a shark saying, "I'm not going to eat you yet."
yes,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Yes.
The opening reminds me of a horror movie. Have you ever seen Ghost Ship?
No, I know the name.
So Ghost Ship has an iconic opening as well, where the mass killer. Do you mind if I spoil this for you?
Spoil away.
Where he has this mechanic that drops above a party that basically and there's a line that basically beheads everybody at the party.
Mm.
This is like the opening to let you. This is what kind of moves these people into being ghosts on this ghost ship. This is a really watered down version of what I'm explaining, but that's what it reminded me of when watching it. I was like, oh, they probably took a little bit of this opening idea for this horror movie as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's really probably one of the best horror, not one of the best, but really good fun horror ghost story horror movie. Yeah.
What was really interesting to me is as I was watching this opening, I was thinking, this feels familiar. It was like, what's his face? James Cameron. I'm seeing things and they're familiar.
This whole movie. I have
Yes.
all kinds of notes about that.
The film that came to me the most was The Matrix.
That's what Chris said yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get
Or
Yes.
Equilibrium, which is my pick over The Matrix, but yeah.
Yes. The opening was, I even wrote my notes like, this is pre-Matrix style, like that whole when he's trying to save Karen from the hospital and all that kind of stuff, and he throws her out the window and he jumps out the window.
He looks like Morpheus.
He does. He does. Everything about it is like, this is the fucking Matrix.
That was exactly my note.
I do have a question.
Yes.
That guy in the opening, is he the only, did you notice too, he's
Yes.
the only human at this shindig except for the DJ? Because when they shoot the DJ, he doesn't explode.
Yes.
But yes.
Yes.
So nobody else could bring a +1, I guess.
No,
What?
he was the sacrificial lamb.
Were they
I
all
guess.
going to feed on the one guy? Is that enough blood to go around?
I don't think
You got the sprinklers and the tile from the the meat packing plant for easy cleanup.
Yeah.
I mean, they got all kinds of options going on.
Oh, Vader pointed out, you mean Morpheus looks like Blade? Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes.
factual.
Wait, why is that factual? Explain this to me.
Because
Blade
I
came
said
first.
Blade looked like Morpheus, but Blade happened first. So it would be
But-
Morpheus would be taking after Blade,
Yes.
and I said
yes,
Blade
yes.
took after Morpheus. Yeah,
Oh, right.
it was
sorry.
I reversed it when I said it. That was on
Right,
me.
gotcha. Right, I follow now. That I got totally confused. Yeah, that is exactly right.
I also think that the scene where where he's got the glaive and he jumps up in the big round room and he takes
Yes.
the glaive and he throws it around. The other thing that came to mind was not necessarily a great film, but it reminded me of towards the end of Wanted.
Okay.
Did you ever
yeah.
see Wanted?
Yes.
When Angelina Jolie throws the bullet in a circle.
Yeah, shit. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it took me back to that. I was like, oh, that seems familiar.
Yes.
I
The
also
thing-
want
Go
to
on.
know, can meat hooks really can take up against a gun in that opening scene where the one vampire was spitting some meat hooks going I was like, that doesn't make sense, but Chris is like, it totally makes sense. I'm like, wait a minute, I would
Totally
rather
makes
have a gun. Wouldn't a gun just
That's right.
blast her away?
True.
I mean, a gun is great and Blade is highly trained, but there is, again, I'm not a self-defense instructor. This is not an advice for anyone. But there's something called the 21-foot rule, and it's essentially inside of 21 feet, someone
Yes.
can actually beat a firearm to a draw. So inside of that range, small weapons that are not firearms are still very dangerous, like meat hooks,
Meat hooks.
Like me cooks.
wielded by
Yeah.
vampires.
The only thing that kind of stood out to me, and there are a good number of moments throughout the film where the CG doesn't really. It kind of looks like TV quality CGI. It reminded me of do you guys watch Doctor Who?
Yes.
It
Yeah.
reminded me of season 1, season 2 of Russell T Davies era. Some of the effects were just a little bit questionable.
I think it holds up. I think it holds up a little. I think it definitely holds up better than most movies back
Product
in
of
the
its
day.
time,
Yeah.
Probably.
But I think the story and the acting has you so into it that
That I agree.
it's a second thought.
Yes.
You're not really focused on the CGI.
I agree, because have you ever seen the BBC Chronicles of Narnia show?
Yes, back
Okay.
in the day. Yes.
So
yeah.
obviously that's hilarious, and there's giant humans in beaver costumes and
Yes.
and but that's another one where it's it's cheesy as heck, but you know what, they did such a great job with it that I'm immersed. So I do agree with Blade. I was I noticed it, but it didn't pull me out. It was just sort of like, okay, that doesn't hold up. That didn't hold as well as it could have, but I am loving what's going on, and like the action just hooks me every time.
And I think it's
every time.
Wesley Snipes' presence too.
He's so good. God,
And
so
he's
good.
so good with his body language, with his
Yeah.
sense of humor, being able to. We'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Yes.
In fairness, he mostly has to act
Yes.
at one speed the entire movie.
Yes,
True.
ice skates.
Yeah.
And I did, and also like in terms of like comedy, there are lots of moments that I thought were genuinely really, really funny, but the moment where Blade gets shot by the cops at the hospital, and he's like, "Mother effer, are you out of your damn mind?" I just cracked. I was like, "That's great. I love that. I'm gonna have to remember that line."
I would be
love
very
it.
interested to know which was ad-libbed by Wesley Snipes. I'm sure some lines were
I'm sure.
ad-libbed. I would be curious to know which ones.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
definitely when it comes to the comedy of the film, I'll just show my OneNote that is a whole page that just says Whistler is the best.
Whistler is awesome. We actually don't have to talk about the film in order. We can just jump all over the place. I don't really care. I really liked him, but I was so bummed that they offed him. I felt like that was such a 90s movie thing to do. Like,
They don't truly off
You
him
should
though. He
watch-
comes.
you
Yeah, he
should
comes
watch the
back in
second
the
movie.
second one. He comes back.
does
That
it?
I know. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
okay,
I
I'll
don't
find
know.
out.
I don't know.
I'll find out.
And the
I
second
think
one's
she
direct-
gene ther- I think he survives as a vampire, and then she gene therapies him as kind of like the backstory.
Chris.
Do you
Who
think
directed the second one? I
Guillermo
forgot.
del Toro?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I love his work
Yes.
a ton, so I'd be curious to see how the second one goes.
Yes. Do you think that was a? Do you think they weren't expecting to get it to do a sequel, which is why they killed Whistler?
Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah, because it feels like good motive, like as in your hero needs some motive, and that's a good, really down moment. You've lost your mentor, blah blah blah.
Oh, that was an intense scene where he,
Yeah.
walks by the corpse. Well, not the corpse. He's not dead yet, but
Yes.
with
Mhm.
the sheet
Yes.
over him,
Just
doesn't
and
even
soaking
look.
wet sheet.
and you
and
could
he
just
pulls it.
see him breaking
Yes.
his composure.
Yes.
Yeah, that was.
It was fun because not fun, but it was tragic because I loved how like he was so stoic. And a few scenes before that, he's just like, "Me and Whistler get it done," but it's kind of acting very.
We have
cold
an
and,
agreement.
hard boiled and all that kind of stuff. And then when he's just got these little tiny like tissues, and he's just pointlessly like trying to rub away the blood on him, and you're just like, you felt something, and that was some as I watched that, I'm like, you know what, I don't think I've, except for like a couple of moments in like the entire MCU and maybe one moment in the DCEU, I don't feel anything for those characters or any of their emotional beats, like
Interesting.
almost
None?
at all,
Zero.
almost none.
Yeah,
there-
I'm right about there with you.
there's a couple here and there, but if you think of the 40 goddamn films they've done in the last 5 years, to really feel like I can't think of a single really good emotional moment that like really
Even
hits
within
you.
the first 10 years, when they were at their prime,
I
when it
mean-
was golden era of the MCU.
I would say I like the moment where like Pepper gives Tony the old arc chesty thingamajiggy, whatever it's called, and it says Tony Stark has a heart. That moment was I liked, and they had to use that at the end. I did like Thor's impassioned speech where he's talking to Odin and walking up towards the monster guy, the metal guy. What else do I remember? I didn't really like Captain America, the first one. I when he died, like that romance between him and Sharon is just sort of Peggy, not Sharon.
Peggy.
Peggy was sort of
Haley Atwell.
yeah. I mean, I love Haley Atwell. She's wonderful. She's gorgeous. But I'm like, there
Don't we
just
all?
wasn't. There was no sizzle. There was no sizzle in that relationship. What else?
I think the heart of it
Yeah.
would be towards the end with Tom Holland's Spider-Man and his
sure.
relationship with Tony Stark. So
See,
even though it was towards the end and it's the cap of the 10 years,
Mm,
I still get emotional at Infinity War when he's like, I don't want to go, sorry, and then he like dusts away.
When he pulls a David Tennant.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like. Yeah. I gotta be honest. I hate Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I hate.
Ooh, I'm out.
We've lost Chris. I found him so obnoxious, so unlikable. He's not.
Who's your Spider-Man? Who's your Spider-Man then?
I like Toby. I like
really
Toby.
See, I would say
Andrew-
that maybe a year or two ago, but Andrew Garfield lately in the last couple of years has grown on me.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. Andrew Garfield is great. Those films are dog shit. So
I don't know.
Like,
have you seen Spider-Man 3?
So I have a theory. I have a theory about Spider-Man 3, which we're getting way off topic.
It's okay. It's Marvel. It's related.
Yeah. We'll bring it back.
So Sam Raimi obviously had his idea, had what he wanted to do for Spider-Man 3. And then Avi Arad was like, you have to put Venom in. And he's like, I don't want to do Venom. I want to do Sandman. You have to put Venom in.
Love Sandman.
And what I think legitimately happened, because there is a stark tonal difference between 1 and 2 and 3. I think when Sam wasn't able to do what he wanted, I think he just said, F it. I'm gonna do it's just gonna be absurd, because everything is absurd. Him dancing, everything is like, the cheese factor is amped up when Harry's like, when your friend, the nurse is like, oh, you got really great friends, and he's like, best friends. It's like everything.
I forgot about that.
I feel like I watched this film and I'm like, there's no way that the guy who did Spider-Man 1 and 2 was doing this and thought this was going to work. I think he did it on purpose, and to make his point, let me do what I want to do, and then almost got Spider-Man 4. Then Avi pulled that rug out, and they did Andrew Garfield.
And then the studio effed him over with Doctor Strange Mom. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Because anytime when I watched that, I was like, there's two scenarios happening here. Yeah. Either he's out of touch completely with creativity, what's going on, or the studios have him so tightly wound.
Oh,
one of the two.
Totally. I feel like it's that. I feel like it's the latter. Totally.
I hate that movie so much. So much. I'm a big horror fan. I worked in Hollywood. I did special effects makeup for so many years. I'm like, horror is like, it's D&D and horror for me.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. I was like, yes. First, and I love Scott Derrickson. I absolutely adore him. Sinister is one of my favorite movies. And when he left, I was like, uh-oh.
Yes.
Something's going on.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I didn't believe Marvel for 1 second when they came out at their big announcement, like, what's it called? Multiverse of Madness is going to be our first horror movie. I'm like, no, it's not.
I was a fool. I believed that.
I mean, hold on. It was scary, but for different reasons.
Yeah, that's true. Scary because it's a downfall of Marvel. Yes.
Not the way they meant it.
Oh, there's so many issues with that. I argue to this day with my film mentor because he liked it, and I was like, "You have to be kidding me!" He's like, "But it's Sam." He's like, "It's Sam Raimi." I don't care. Mediocre. It's horrible.
Yeah.
All right.
You gotta be able. You gotta be able to call it when it's bad.
Multiverse of sadness, badness.
Multiverse of badness. I'm feeling left out.
There we go. Phil in the chat says multiverse of mediocre.
Mediocre, yeah.
And Biffer the Hobbit says hello. Biffer.
Hello.
Welcome, Biffer.
There you go, Luke. I did my best to match you.
Nice. I like the hat. I like the hat. The thing is, everyone's like, "Oh, do you wear these hats? Once you went to the UK, and those farmer hats." And I'm like, "Shut up! I've been wearing these kind of hats since I lived in the States because they're just cool.
They're comfortable and they're warm and they're great."
Exactly. Okay, so what happens next in this? Okay, this is something else that was interesting. When Blade returns to their lair in their kind of warehouse that they're set up in, they're playing that pop song, Red Sun Rising or whatever, and it's so
contrast
down. It's so like quiet, and I was just thinking about like Guardians of the Galaxy and like, because recently I watched Kong Skull Island, and I was thinking about Suicide Squad, where like they just throw the pop music right in your face in those scenes, and I'm like, and this one just had like this tiny little pared down moment where you hear like a fraction of the song, and then it clicked off, and then like when it came back on again, it was only for like a couple of bars, and then clicked off again, and I was like, oh, I miss the days of tame pop music in some of these movies.
I feel because the examples you shared were James Gunn, and I feel James Gunn relies too heavily sometimes on music to get his point across. And mind you, look, I liked the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I like Peacemaker.
I like the Suicide. I do enjoy
yeah.
the Suicide Squad. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
the
Guardians
the
of the
is very
Galaxy.
important.
Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is probably one of my favorite MCU movies. I could care less for 2. I have not seen 3 yet, but I agree. I think nowadays there a lot of filmmakers, in a sense, are copying what Gunn has done, where they think, oh, let's throw in catchy tunes to kind of distract the
Yes.
audience of what's going on screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's talk about the evil boardroom scene with the vampire Illuminati.
The Pure Bloods.
Yes.
Reminds me of this
Yeah,
some
the
scenes in
Slytherins?
Harry Potter. Yeah.
Yes.
When Voldemort has the Death Eaters around him. Yeah. The Pure Bloods.
The first thing I thought about with that scene was, while yes, there was some Harry Potter-ness happening there, but Harry Potter
happened way
before that, but I don't know if this is in the Blade comics. I've not read like the Blade comics, so I don't know that level. I don't know if either of you have.
I've
I
actually
have
not
not.
really read it I've only read things where he was like featured.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I don't know. That might have been part of some of their story in their comics, maybe, I don't know. But the thing that cracked me up the most as I was watching this, and I'm like, God damn you, Stephanie Meyer. You just copied Blade.
Or J.K. Rowling.
No, Stephanie Meyer.
Stephanie Meyer. Oh,
Twilight. Twilight lady. Yeah. I was like,
the high vampires. Yes. Okay,
Yes.
I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
It's okay, I've never seen Twilight.
Just
I
to
don't know
give
what
you
you're talking about.
just to give you context, I have never read the books. My sisters were very obsessed with those books. I could not get into them. They're not well written in my opinion.
they're garbage.
They're garbage. They're horrible. But
Garbage.
I was like, you know what? I've never seen the movies. Let me watch all of them. So a couple months ago, Chris, I was watching all of it, and then I was like, Chris, watch it with me. He's like, no. It's like, but he's like, I will watch the last one with you. So he had not seen any of them until the last one. Yes.
So
Like
I've
part
seen
two.
like a minimal amount of Twilight. I believe I was actually on a flight back from England, and it was one of the in-flight movies. I have no idea which one it was. I just know it's the one where one of the ones at least, where the vampires fight the werewolves. And I was like, well,
I think that's
if it's going to have
3.
vampires fighting werewolves, I can't imagine it's going to do better than that scene. So this will be the test run.
Yes.
There are so many problems with that series in a whole. Yes. You could spend 3 hours talking about it.
Do you remember Mystery Science Theater?
Yes.
And do you know that they've continued doing their stuff, but under Riff Tracks, the name Riff Tracks?
Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
knew they kept doing it. I didn't know they changed it to Riff Tracks, though.
Okay, so the new Mystery Science Theater, ignore it because they're not involved with it. But the original guys from Mystery Science Theater still do stuff under the name of Riff Tracks, and it is absolutely hilarious. They did all 5 Twilight movies.
They did back and watch all this.
8. They did all 8 Harry Potter movies.
Listen, I'm a Potterhead, so those movies, gold.
Yes, I mean they're bad. They're so good. They're kind of bad at times. Also, the studio is about 10 minutes from me. I live about 10 minutes from where the studio is.
For our honeymoon, I wanted to go, but we ended up in Paris instead. So, but yeah.
Well, if you come back, we can all have a drink because it's very close to my house.
Okay.
Yeah, I do really I actually like the studio tour. It is a lot of fun.
I've got wands behind me. I've got really nice
wands over there hung on the
books.
wall.
My mother-in-law every birthday, Christmas sends me something Potter related, and she sent me these new books that have the illustration pop-ups in them.
I just keep a long sword by my desk.
Those are great.
Yes.
I got some notebooks. That are.
Oh, those
Potter.
are cool.
I love them.
Not to one up you, but half of my back is tattooed in Harry Potter. I've got Hogwarts. I've got Deathly Hallows. I've got Harry on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and when I mean half my back, my husband will attest to this. It's pretty much half my back.
I don't know. It's like 2/5 your back.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
2/5. We'll break it down to fine fractions.
And then in November, we're going to a wedding that is Harry Potter themed, and
fun.
You got to wear your colors. So I'm wearing green, and Chris is going to be wearing yellow.
Got to get my yellows together.
So you were a Slytherin. So I did the Harry Potter online.
Are you a Ravenclaw or Gryffindor?
No, I'm a Slytherin.
Really?
No, I was thinking Ravenclaw or Slytherin.
Yeah, I'm a Slytherin.
I'm surprised.
I don't know how or why, but apparently I am a nasty mother effer, so I'm a Slytherin.
Hell yeah! Let's
You
be
know?
nasty motherfucker. I'm all for it. Let's do this. Yeah. Get out of here, Hufflepuff.
We sort of looked into the idea because me and my wife got married earlier.
Gary, you're
this
such a
year.
Ravenclaw.
I know. My film mentor's in the comments.
Oh, is this Gary?
Gary
Yep.
Schultz. Yes.
Hello, Gary. Yes. We toyed with the idea of maybe having, because we got married at the beginning of this year, we really toyed with the idea of having a reception at the studio, because you could do that, but like it was crazy expensive, so we didn't.
Oh, I'm sure.
I can imagine.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It was basically designed for like companies who like have their big parties there. That's the kind of numbers you need. I was like, okay, we're not gonna have that many people, so never mind. But anyway, Blade.
Let's get back to Blade.
What did you think of the kind of the turned versus the pure blood theme throughout this movie? It's very sort of, it's kind of World War II-esque. It's a thing that comes up quite often in all these sorts of stories. It's not too different from mutants versus humans and things like that. But how do you think this movie handled it?
I would have loved more background on the purebloods to know, because they had to have started somewhere, right? There had to been the first one. So how I understand the turn part. They're turning humans into vampires. So like they said in the movie, it's similar to a virus. But I would have loved a little bit more background on where the purebloods came from, how it started.
Don't kid yourself. We know you just want a Deacon Frost movie. I know he's not a pure blood, but you just want his background.
I had a crush on Deacon Frost when I first saw this as a kid.
The most 90s man in this movie.
Such a bad boy.
So 90s.
Yes.
I can be quoted as saying he is 90s coked out hot.
I almost got one of those tattoos too. One of those
little glyphs.
Yes.
Oh man.
As a teenager.
I was kind of surprised that in that scene when they're in that vault and there's that and there's Pearl and all that kind of stuff, and they're flying through the glass, that's keeping these ancient scrolls preserved. I was actually kind of surprised that Blade was just so cavalier and everyone was so cavalier about smashing
and destroying it. I thought the same thing too. I'm like, isn't this stuff important? Shouldn't this on both sides? One is using
I disagree.
to do their spell, and the other, and Blade probably needs the information to figure out. But then again, he took photos of everything, so he probably was like, we got photos.
Blade's just thinking about survival, and then you have Deacon and his crew, and for him, it's kind of like he's already got all the information. He knows where he's going with it. In fact, if he lets other people have this information, could be a problem.
Yes, true.
They figure it out.
Fun fact, Phil. Nadia nor I have seen Blade 2 or 3.
I've never,
so
Gary Schultz gave me crap for that this morning. And if he's still in the chat, guess what, Gary? Luke's never seen The Crow either.
sorry, man. Sorry, dude. Okay, did you guys ever watch the Spider-Man, the animated series in the 90s?
Yes.
Did you, Nadia?
Yeah, I did. I just said yes.
Cool. So because I recently did an epic rewatch of that
Peter Parker. Yeah,
and
brought some stuff.
That's why I was bringing it up.
Yeah,
our episode 1.
Our first episode ever recorded. I was like, yeah, Peter Parker just lit the fire in my adolescence from that cartoon.
Interesting. Thinking about that. I'm going to go off on a tangent now. Yeah, thinking about that. Mary Jane didn't, but Batgirl on the Batman the Animated Series.
Or what about Black Cat? She was something.
She yes, true, but she came in quite late though.
Yeah, that's true.
She came in quite late, so I think Batman sort of beat them between Catwoman and Batgirl on the Batman the Animated Series. I think that beat Spider-Man to it. But so I really, what was fun was when they brought Blade in to that show, because he's in it quite a lot. So you got Blade, and he's got Whistler, and he's there's stuff with his mom and all that kind of stuff that happens throughout that that whole series.
I just remember Craven. That's one of the main villains I remember.
Oh yes. And he's very awesome. But
Yes.
it was fun for me as I was watching. I was like, you know what? I was like, because he was so. What I found interesting was that cartoon, the animated series of Spider-Man, was. There's no way they would make that today. It dealt with adult themes. There was like really intense stuff happening throughout that whole show. And Blade was he was a murderous monster. Like he was just going. He was wanting to kill everyone. He wanted to kill Spider-Man. He wanted to kill everything. And so it was interesting going from that to then seeing the live action Blade and feeling like, yeah, that cartoon, like he was pretty like intense in that. And I think they adapted that pretty well for this. For this.
Well, because I feel like Blade's general attitude is along the lines of, if you're either in my way or I'm going to make you out of my way. It doesn't matter if you're not in my way. I'm just going to make you not in my way.
Yes. Well, true. And there's a real sort of like, what was interesting in this movie is when Whistler realizes that Karen is starting to turn, and he's like, "Sorry, you gotta
well.
die."
Breaks.
Yeah,
You know.
them's the breaks.
Yeah, and and he's just like, you just need to, you better go off yourself. And I'm like, holy shit, like
But I mean, I think of it in a real life scenario, would you prefer to be a vampire and hurt
Yes.
innocent people? I would.
Yes.
That's what I said when I was watching it with Chris. I was like, hell yeah, I would turn 100%.
Which, if you think about it, ruins the whole premise of Twilight. Because none of them want to be vampires, but they all agreed to become vampires.
Wait, none of them wanted to be vampires except for the main character. She wanted to be a vampire.
Yeah, she's a nut job though.
She's the abusive one in that relationship, by the way, after watching that. Again, we're off topic, but yes.
We could do a Twilight trashing session at some point. That whole
I would
franchise
gladly do it. I would rewatch them to do this. Yes.
I just like Mustache Dad and his Rainer beers.
Yes. And it's who plays the dad, the vampire dad.
Oh yeah, that guy.
He's pretty big.
Oh,
that
guy.
That guy.
That guy.
He's so big no one can remember his name.
His name.
He must be
that guy.
Huge.
J.K. Simmons. I've never seen it.
No.
Mustache. Yeah.
So there are moments throughout this film that, like I said, have some really kind of cheesy moments, cheesy CGI moments. But there's some bits, like cinematography wise, that I really enjoyed. So there's one moment really early on, I think, when after Blade is rescued Karen, he's driving back to the place, and like everything is like interestingly deserted. Like it's nighttime, the street is it just felt creepy and eerie, and I loved scenes like that. But I also loved after he's sort of cured, thinks he's cured Karen and takes her back to his apartment. There's that scene where he's driving on the motorway, and everything is just vividly bright. It's so bright. Which I loved, and as I was talking to a friend, he said there's a bit in the commentary where Phil in the chat actually was watching with me today. He said there's a bit in the commentary where they said that was sort of kind of signifying like the way Karen is currently seeing the world, because she's just sort of come out of she's still kind of got that vampire-ish stuff in her right now, and which is why everything is was one brief scene. Everything is just really the contrast is bright white. Are there any scenes throughout the film like that like really stood out for you?
Yes.
It's interesting you say that, because in that lighting regard, she was complaining about when it was the purebloods in their little
how dark it
consortium.
was.
She's like, it's so dark. And I'm like, but they're all vampires. Like the light is there for us as the audience. There's probably zero lights in that room.
They all have dark vision.
Good point.
Yeah,
that's a good
D&D
point.
reference. They all have dark vision.
Dark vision. Yep.
I liked the scene where Blade and Deacon meet in the park with the child that he's holding hostage, and how everybody's kind of going on with their day. Nobody's really noticing this, stoic black man in all leather with and this guy with a small child holding her, and especially when he raises her up to be like, I love it. And nobody says anything until guns start going off, and then people start running.
Yes.
I really
even then, when the guns stop, everybody's like, okay, it's cool now.
It's over.
Yeah, it's our way. Yeah, it's New York. It's
a major
day
city.
there.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
Is it New York? What city is it? Because it felt like a
I
nondescript
feel like
city
it's
to me.
New York.
I think it was
100% it felt like New York.
It felt like New York, but I feel
Hold
like
on.
maybe I was trying to figure out. I feel like maybe one of the license plates may have said Boston.
Well, see, because I recently watched.
Oh, it's
Uh,
Los Angeles.
Oh, is it?
Interesting. 'Cause
Yeah, Blade
I
Raid.
thought there was like
Yeah.
a Boston reference on one of the plates. Dang.
Yeah. So Phil kept saying it looks like L.A. and San Francisco, but there were moments and scenes that felt like Boston to me, and because I'd recently watched this old '80s show called Spencer for Hire, starring Robert Urich and Avery Brooks, who plays Captain Sisko in Star Trek: Deep Space Nine.
Oh, that's just good.
And the whole show is filmed in Boston. I was like, and there were scenes like this feels very Boston-y.
Felt New York to me because it felt like Hell's Kitchen. That's what it came off
some
of
scenes
it a
then
little
felt
bit.
like that for me, and then I was like, I couldn't tell you, but I don't ever think they mention where they are.
Why are vampires in
Mhm.
Los Angeles? I feel like you would live
Yeah.
either in the mid or east coast,
Yes.
where it's darker more often.
Where
know.
did that temple come from?
That's another question. Did they build it over time?
Mm.
No, the temple was hidden under the
Well,
vampire elite's
listen,
above ground temple.
If
I
you're
mean,
a
if you're that
vampire,
rich, you also have a below ground temple, right?
You're right.
if you're a
Goes next to the
vampire
ground pool.
and you hire vampire workers, they can literally work 24/7, right?
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
So that thing probably took 2 or 3 months to get it up there.
Who knows? It's weird.
Why?
Yeah, it's like that's what I couldn't figure. I was like, is this like an old ancient temple and it's been here forever, or have they just sort of reconstructed it for whatever?
And why in
purpose?
Los Angeles? Why would there be an old ancient temple in Los Angeles?
That
Out of all places.
doesn't make sense.
That also makes sense, when I thought New York, but then it doesn't make sense that they took the elder to the shoreline for the sunrise scene where they all were wearing
Whereas
biker
fires off like a
helmets
firework.
and
Yes.
and sunscreen or whatever
Yes.
their version of sunscreen is.
Yes,
So-
that
yeah.
was an odd scene. I liked it, but it was also very odd to me.
Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting because it made me think about something I didn't notice until there was a lot of things I just, having not seen it in forever, rewatching it again.
Yeah.
It's like, so they're all fully covered. They have the sunblock on, and then they drop the visors on the helmet, and the sun comes up and he explodes.
Yeah.
Then you have Deacon in completely standard clothing, no gloves, no glasses on, no helmet. I'm like, listen, I don't care how much sunscreen. You probably missed a spot in your ear. Your mouth is definitely not sunscreened.
Well,
your
I
eyes
think
are not a-okay.
The
Yes.
tree lines were supposed to, dilute
Yeah,
it
but
a
he
little
was
bit.
was it Katano was smoking before the sun was even up.
Yes.
If I was Blade in that
That's
scene, I
true.
would just cut off some of the branches above him. That takes care of
Yeah.
your situation right there.
Yeah, I thought about that a little bit during that scene. I did think, wait a minute, he's outside, but then I was like, yeah, because he put the sunscreen on, so then I sort of let it go. But thinking about it in more detail, it's like, no, that actually doesn't make
The vampires kind of don't make sense in this a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
I like vampire movies. One of my favorite one is John Carpenter's Vampires with James Wood in it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's cheesy. It's really bad, but it's to me the best vampire movie ever. Ever. It's one of my favorites. And I feel the
That's
vampires in this just don't make sense because
Yeah.
they're messing a lot with the lore. So garlic works, but crosses don't. Steel works, silver works
Silver, yeah.
too. And it reminded Chris and I of Dresden series, the book series we read, where they also mess a little bit with the lore where
Yeah.
silver works, but it has on werewolves, but it has to be
ancestral
what?
silver.
Ancestral silver.
It's
So I'm like,
handed down silver from your family. Oop, hit
why
my
can't
mouse.
vampires just be all the same? Garlic, crosses, and silver. Stay
Yeah.
in the heart. You're done.
Yes. Yeah. It seems like every sort of vampire movie, or book or something, it needs to come up. They always feel like they need to come up with some sort of thing that's like, oh, the established lore isn't totally correct, and here's the way in which it's not correct. And it just get a bit sort of like, why doesn't a cross work? Like, what's the point? Like, come on.
Well, they just want to go, but our vampires are different.
Yes.
Well, I
our
mean-
vampires sparkle.
Yeah. Wow, you really got to hate for Twilight. Yes,
Oh,
I
I
would
do.
love to be on a discussion with you about
I
Twilight.
Probably also
It's-
hates the sequels, 50 Shades of Grey.
Yes, that's true.
Oh God.
Yeah, because Luke, that was a
I
Twilight
know.
fan fiction.
Yeah.
Effing fan fiction. It
And it made-
infuriates me
Yeah.
that this dog shit fan fiction got picked up and became a multi-million dollar bestseller in a movie.
I read the first book only by a blogger who would take each section and then actually rewrite it to what it should properly be written as, because it's horrible writing.
Yes.
It's god awful. I don't know how anybody got through any of those chapters.
No. It's just it was a bunch of horny lonely moms.
Yes, with their book clubs.
With their book clubs, that's it. That's the only people who get through that.
Their book clubs. There's people reading this on buses.
That's true.
Shameful. For shame.
You should be shamed if you're carrying that book in public.
Shame, budding. Shame, budding.
Right. Okay. What else do I got here in my notes? Yeah, I did find it funny that Deacon just threw that kid in the park. Just
threw her.
chucked her through
a hot dog stand.
Through the hot dog stand into the road.
The streets. Yeah.
And then in the end, Blade's just like, "You're safe now. Go home."
Go home.
And she's like, "Okay." I'm like, "What this kid would be
just
like,
another day in Los Angeles."
Right? So traumatized. Actually, just thinking about it, during that fight scene under where they have the scriptures, and then they're running through the subway.
Yeah.
The subway that does. I guess LA does have an underground train.
I believe
guess.
so.
Yeah.
They do
got,
have
like,
a public transportation. Yeah.
They got a thing. It was hilarious to me when Blade had Quinn and did the Sandman. The Sandman.
That was one of my other notes in here.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely got Sandmaned.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God. I was like, is this where Sam got that idea from? Because that feels so. Yeah, he had to.
Okay.
Yeah,
let me give you
absolutely.
one. Let me give you one in reverse on that.
Okay.
So I think one way in which Blade was actually influenced by something, and this could be me reading way too far into it.
Yep.
But when you have Deacon, it's one of the scenes. Like right before like they get the ritual figured out.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there shirtless at his desk, and then you see his cyber coffin open up, and there is a at that point faceless woman. We all find out that who it is later.
Yes.
And
Yes.
but when I watched that, I'm like, of course, it's look at the time this was made. Of course, it's a cyber coffin. B,
Yes.
I'm like, it kind of gave me Vader's throne, kind of.
Shoot. Yes.
Oh, that's a good point.
That is a good point. Yeah, that's true. There's got to be that had to be a thing. Someone probably thought,
Mhm.
let's do a Darth Vader coffin-y thing. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. The other way in which this film really felt like The Matrix was again how how Blade was the one. He is the Neo.
The Daywalker.
He is the one that they need. And then once Whistler is dead and they've kidnapped Karen and he's going to save her and stop this nonsense. That scene of him walking into the building and starting to fight the guards and all that kind of stuff is so much like the end of The Matrix when Neo and Trinity walk into the building to go fight the Mr. Smith and all them, and even to the point where if you go and do a contrast, the style of the panels on the wall, the whatever they're, it looks the hallway looks very 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 similar. It was weird to me how similar
now I just want to go back and watch The Rescue of Morpheus.
Yeah.
Hate me all you want. I don't really like The Matrix that much.
I only like the first one. I think the rest of them are crap.
I think Equilibrium's better. That's my take.
I think that's what iconoclasts say.
Whatever. I mean, okay. It's not that I don't like The Matrix. It's an enjoyable film. I just don't get the overall hype about The Matrix. And now your friend Phil, who said I was cool, is going to be like, no.
Phil,
them fighting words.
Phil loves The Matrix. I like the first one. It's fine.
All three of them, Phil. All three of them.
No.
All four.
Or four of them. Sorry.
Four of them.
Four of them.
And four is by far the worst, which is an achievement.
No, they only made 3 of them.
I stand by that. Because what was weird, the thing about the Matrix, and thinking about like the comparisons to the Matrix, and obviously with Twilight, the Wachowski
Sisters?
Sisters now, yeah.
are they're plagiarizers allegedly. You know, they the first it's out there in the world that they they plagiarized the script for the Matrix, and there was a court.
Oh, right. There was a court hearing about it, or a couple
Was
years
it
ago,
recent?
right?
It was years ago, where they,
Yeah.
and I think they had to pay they paid the lady. They had to pay the lady who they took the story from, who, or,
But
I do
okay,
vaguely remember that now.
The Matrix is a biblical kind of storyline. The chosen one, Neo, Jesus. The defender. Yeah, they all kind of teeter down from that. Every movie kind of has that heroic timeline with stuff. I mean, look, Matrix,
the
Lord
hero's
of the Ring, the hero's journey. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia, like all big epic movies like that. Even probably nowadays, I can't even think of one right now. But yes, have that kind of.
There's definitely symbolism. There's definitely allegory there. But I think my guess is that they must have took the
Harry Potter,
the other elements that are not just the theme for the lady to have won the court case. They would have to have taken more than just thematically.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, obviously they plagiarize. That's completely true. But what I'm saying is, even if they plagiarize, it's not a unique story in a sense. True. I mean, the elements of it is how they put the story together is, but it's if you take it to its core. It's in a sense a reference, kind of like a biblical storyline.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah.
What did you think of Blade's mom, and why was she so horny for Blade?
I know this incestual relationship was kind of creepy. I forgot about that until we rewatched it. Yes,
it is weird. I imagine her morals just got broken down over time.
Well, she hasn't seen him since he was
she never saw him. She never saw him.
Yeah, and so what? So her response is, "Damn, I have a hot son."
Ugh.
I'm not saying that's a proper response, but I'm saying there's no motherly outpour towards him.
Yes,
because she didn't raise him. She didn't even. I don't even know if she knew he was alive. But I thought it was kind of creepy that Deacon's his vampire daddy.
Yeah, I mean that was a fun twist for me. I was like, oh, that's I'm cool with that. But I was sort of wondering. I wanted a little bit more conflict from the mom. I think I wanted
a defense to him, like, hey, don't mess with my kid.
Yes, like even if she's like. She's doing this for the greater good, of vampiredom. Some kind of emotion would have been nice to see her having. She's watching her son be sacrificed and all that kind of something.
Motherly instinct.
Yes,
but then again, that could be a human emotion, and like Chris was saying, because she's been a vampire for so long, she doesn't have those instincts anymore.
She's just been stripped of humanity. She's never actually been a mother because she kind of died, and so obviously Blade was never there. So to me, it's kind of like, well, the closest thing with a loss of humanity she probably has to love is probably like lust.
Maybe, but I guess when I think about it, because as Deacon, when Karen's talking to him,
Thanks, Phil.
and looking at the scar, and she comments on that, it brings up emotion in him. It brings up that past. She's trying to evoke that his human side, and it kind of works. There's a little something.
He gets angry. Yeah,
there's a little something there, and so and this is kind of, I guess, what you were saying earlier, Nadia, where it's a little bit. The vampires are a little bit confused. It's like, are they completely cold and heartless? Well, they don't actually seem to be entirely cold and heartless. They're ruthless in their quest, but on an individual, what's his face, the happy-go-lucky guy from Gotham, whatever his name is, who's in this movie. What's his name? The hairy guy.
The hairy guy.
Oh, Quinn.
Quinn. I know him from a '90s sitcom or early 2000s
a lot
sitcom
of stuff. He was like a
that
comedian.
He was on. Yeah,
Yes.
He's a comedian. Yeah.
Yes, I can't. What was that show? Because I can't. I'm
Oh,
gonna have to look it up.
I know exactly what you're talking about too.
Yes.
All right.
He was like the uncle or the dad in it, I think.
Yes.
Where are you hiding, sir?
Let's see. Why is
This is a race.
This
Let's
is
see
a
what
real,
we
Donald
decide.
Logue.
I'm scrolling through his IMDb page.
Okay, you're all gonna beat me. I haven't even
Grounded
seen
for
it.
life.
Grounded. That was it. Way to go. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
That was absolutely it. I liked him
Yeah.
in that. He's in Ghost Rider as well. I didn't know that.
Oh, I remember that.
Interesting. Yeah. So so that like he was all over the map emotionally. He didn't want his hand cut off, and he was nervous and scared and happy and sad.
Well,
So
they
it's like,
they still have a sense of community amongst them, and
Yes.
especially since there's a divide between pureblood and turned too as well. I'm sure that adds even more camaraderie amongst the core of them.
yeah. Yeah, I can see that. But yeah, I want something with the mom. I think would have been nice
Instead of incest.
instead.
It was kind of getting a little like, all right, this is a little Game of Thrones for me. I'm over
Remember,
this.
kids, incest is not wincest.
Yes. Well, it was interesting because on the other side, Blade was emotional seeing her at first.
He was.
Until he kind of figured out that there was no humanity left.
Yeah,
and
there was
he's
no
like,
one in there.
Yes.
For him, I think his way of, in a sense, honoring his mother and also closing that wound was releasing her and letting her, be killed or dusted or whatever.
I totally agree.
Well, in fairness, also that was one of the other things that kind of got me was during that scene is he stakes her, but he stakes her in the gut. I'm like, it was like harder the head after that, like otherwise just don't do it. When he tells Karen. So it was interesting that like for this one scene, just like, oh, gut stab. Okay, that'll do it this time.
Yeah.
The power of love.
The power of love. Power of love saves everyone. So
Curious
I mean,
thing.
the final fight with Deacon was there's some of it that's great. I like a lot of that final fight. When he chops him in half, and there's that blood, and
he comes right back.
That was unintentionally funny to me. But I did really enjoy. There's so many really good fight scenes that have these little blips of cheesy CGI throughout them. But I mean, what it made me miss was it's like the best of both worlds. I think where it's like you have these really great physical choreographed fight scenes with real people, and I like it. And then you watch something like any MCU movie in the last 5-10 years, or not 10 years, but 8 years or so, and everything is just generic CGI fight stuff. Like I really like the first Iron Man movie because there's a lot of actual guy in suit doing something, and then by Iron Man 2 it's just dots all over his body. Or like I love the old X-Men movies. I'm a big fan of X-Men 1 to 3, even though 3 is terrible.
Wow.
At least those movies have great action in them, and it's real people doing stuff. Like I know in the first movie their suits are really tight and it's a bit awkward, and you can kind of tell that in some of the fight scenes, but it's like, it's fine.
Well, then I have to ask you a quick question. Do you know what happens when a toad gets hit by lightning?
The same thing happens to everything else.
Everything else.
The stupidest line in maybe cinematic history. Isn't that meant to be like a hangover line from Joss Whedon? Like he wrote, didn't he? I think he wrote that line. That is in my brain somewhere that tells me that's a hangover line from Joss Whedon working on that movie at some point. And
I did like this fight scene though. And again, the CGI did not take away from but I will say prior to that, in this whole scene, the creepiest thing ever in this movie was when Karen got dropped down that hole and her ex.
Hello, Karen.
Yes.
And his voice has changed.
Why does he have an English accent?
Yes.
Well,
Chris was saying he's probably so decomposed. That's why she could get away, because he's so weak. She could probably break his bones very easily.
She probably hit him. She probably broke bones in his body. He just couldn't get back up.
Right.
He's just an eternally living, non-regenerating, broken thing.
And the other creepy one was Pearl, the almighty. Yeah.
Pearl's super creepy.
Yeah, that fat suit. That was really good. Reminds me of Seven.
It's the only line from Joss Whedon's draft left.
Yes. The Pearl scene was great and horrific, and also made me wonder if they would do that scene today. Because there'd be someone out there be like, "This is fat shaming,
fat phobia,
this is fat phobia," and I'm like, "It's just a beast. It's just a monstrous beast."
Do you gorge yourself on blood? Okay, then we're okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if lately there's been a movie with a grotesque, like, monster like that, and I can't think of anything.
Well, there's Brendan Fraser in The Whale. Ba-da-ba!
But yeah, that's true. I haven't seen it.
I haven't either.
Haven't seen it. It's just not an interest. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's fantastic. I
Do you
just
ever
don't feel like watching Brendan Fraser cry.
Just
for,
let me know
like-
when you guys want to talk about The Mummy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's Chris's like ultimate favorite movie series.
The Mummy
Yeah.
Returns is one of my favorite movies.
I do I like the Mummy movies. I like the first two. I can't remember if I've seen anything beyond that, but I like. Yeah, I do you ever listen to Bill Burr, the comedian?
Sometimes.
I listen to his Monday morning podcast, which I find really really funny. And I remember when The Whale came out, and he was telling a story about how his his wife took him to see the movie, and he was like he just started busting out laughing while he's watching it because
Oh no,
in
it's
his-
supposed to be
in-
a scene.
in his mind he was trying to think he was
I
trying to
could
think,
just see Bill Burr cackling.
I know, right? He was trying to think, how is this movie going to end? And like he's laughing in his commentary, and I'm, as you're listening, you're laughing as well because he's in his mind he he thought at some point Brendan Fraser the only way to get out of the building that he was like in was to, and like he envisioned him like having to sacrifice himself by throwing himself out the window and like falling on top of some sort of bad guy or something like that. So like he's sitting there watching this movie just envisioning Brendan Fraser for some reason at some point having to throw himself out the window and splat on top of someone. And I was like, and I just now for me like that's just in my head now every time I think about The Whale.
I would
Sounds
say
like Bill.
it came to me.
does.
Probably the grotesque creatures nowadays. Probably The Witcher, right, Chris? I would say they have grotesque creatures like Pearl. I mean, not to that extent. but,
Yeah,
in the
and
last
behind
season.
the scenes. And
Yeah,
behind
well,
the
yeah.
scenes.
Yeah, behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yes. Now, I guess what was interesting for me going back and watching this movie was thinking about comic book movies at the time. And
Spawn.
Spawn, Steel, which
Shadow. The Shadow is based off a comic too.
The Shadow. What was there something else in my mind that can't
The
remember?
Phantom with Billy
Phantom.
Zane.
Phantom. That's
That's
the
it.
other one.
Yes,
Yeah.
And they're all sort of it was a really awkward time for comic book movies. Like Batman was the only thing that was mildly successful, but was just after
Was
for
this
me.
Tim
Go on.
Burton's Batman we're talking about.
Tim
at
Burton
the time?
was his was 92, and I love Batman Returns. For me, that is the best of the two. I love that movie so much. But yeah, Batman Forever, which is interesting, but just so over the top at times it's hard to stomach. And then you have Batman and Robin, which is just
I had a crush on Chris O'Donnell when that movie came out.
which one? Oh, the first, the Forever.
Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Hey,
I just
listen.
wondered why didn't Batgirl have bat nipples?
Elisa Silverstone
Alicia
as
Silverstone.
Batgirl. Yeah. Uma Thurman is the best thing out of that whole movie. As
Hey, I don't go anywhere
Poison
without my
Ivy.
bat card.
Oh God, no! The best thing in the movie is John Glover from Smallville, playing the mad scientist that creates Bane.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That performance, he's nuts, and I love it. I love
That
it.
movie's so quirky. I know it did not do well when it first was really, but I feel a rewatch is needed. I think it to me it looks like a comic book movie. Like if you had taken a comic book and splat it onto a screen.
some
Not like
respects, yes.
not like how the MCU now where everything's a little bit more realistic. They try to go more the realistic route of what it would really be in the real life.
Yes.
I feel like it's like, okay, we're going to take what's from the page and just kind of bright colors and over the top
Yes.
costumes and just splat it right on the screen.
For me, I really felt this when I was watching Batman Forever. Batman Forever felt like, and I said this in my last retrospective, which was on that. It felt like it was a Adam West, like a big budget Adam West movie.
Okay.
Trying to be a little bit more serious because there's moments where it's ultra campy. There's moments where there's the scene where the Batmobile is driving up the wall. The way the horns are playing at that moment really feels like like that you would find in the TV show.
I'm curious.
And-
Val Kilmer, that's who I was thinking.
Yeah, Val Kilmer was Batman. and so there was and there were jokes that were sort of, there was a holy rusted metal Batman, there was so much Adam Westness I felt in that one, and then I think they took it to the extreme in the second one, in Batman and Robin.
Have you
but-
seen The Flash yet? By the way, just
Oh yeah,
curious.
it's dog shit.
Okay. Did you like the George
thank you.
Clooney
No,
cameo
so
at the end?
it's the
There was
stupidest
nothing to
thing.
like about that movie, but the end of the credits.
Yeah,
I liked it. So
I liked the actress who played Supergirl, but I didn't like Supergirl.
I don't
She was
think
so
that's true
underserved.
Supergirl though. To me,
No,
it didn't
it's
feel like
not.
true Supergirl. Yeah,
No.
it didn't
That
feel
is
like
not Kara
Supergirl.
Zor-El.
And
No.
she looks like actually Clark Kent's daughter in a couple of the comic book series. The dark hair and the short. Yeah, to me.
I like how they described the multiverse. I think that was like the one good thing to come out of the Flash
The
movie.
spaghetti.
The spaghetti
Yes,
thing.
I agree. Yeah. I like
That was like the one
moment.
big pro.
Yeah, everything else was just that movie was so.
I liked it.
I saw
It's
it today.
unlikable.
I think so.
So with me recently losing my mom, any movie that has like that type of relationship or that storyline in it,
Yeah.
kind of hits home a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So I enjoy. You know what? To me, I went in not expecting the best. I enjoyed it from start to finish. Would I go see it again? I mean, I did rewatch it, but I was rewatching it, and Chris walks in the room. He's like, "Can we put anything else on the
Anything else.
screen?"
Anything else. I had a really interesting experience when I watched that movie. I had another friend also who he recently lost his mom, and so he was definitely feeling the same. So I do understand that component of it resonating with certain people. But yeah, I had an interesting experience where I watched the film in an audience of 3, me included.
Wow.
And
Jealous.
to be fair, I went to there's this, I'm not gonna say online where I go, but there's a theater in central London that I really like to go to, and if I have the time, I will go during the day. So I will go to like the first or second showing, and so it's kind of expected that you might have a empty cinema at a central London theater on a Thursday afternoon.
During the work
There-
week, right? That
I
makes
mean,
sense.
we went a Tuesday afternoon where it's kind of dead, and we still had more people in the theater.
That's funny. So I watched it, and as I was coming out, there was one of the ushers who were coming in to do some cleanup, and she was like, "Oh, what'd you think?" And I was like, I don't think it was very good. And then kind of started talking to her, and as I was talking to one of the other people who were in the cinema, this other lady walked out, and then we turned to her, and like we ended up having this like kind of this 3-way chat about the Flash, and me and the other girl who had seen the film, we were both just like, yeah, that was just an uneven clusterfuck. Like,
You know what I love about all these DC films coming out, especially
Yes.
since Aquaman's going to tank too.
yes, probably.
I
If it
love
ever gets
that
out.
that because I was discussing this yesterday
Yes.
with Salty Nerd. I made the
Yes.
point that I think these movies would have done better financially if James Gunn has kept his mouth shut and waited to announce whatever he was going to do with the DCU after
absolutely.
Aquaman.
Absolutely.
The fact that he, for the first 2, kept saying this is going to be the best superhero movie you've ever seen, talking about the
Yeah.
Flash and then Blue
Yeah.
Beetle, and I'm sure he's going to say the same shit about Aquaman.
Yeah.
Best, wonderful. You'll cry, you'll laugh, all this stuff, and
Tom
it's
Cruise
huge.
approved.
but it's also, I think, making people even less supportive or less trusting in him
Totally.
of what he's going to be doing with the DCU.
And what
think
did I
he-
tell you? What did I tell you?
What?
I said he is the one who's going to bring balance to the force, that he's going to destroy Marvel and DC.
Yes, I like James Gunn, but I feel James Gunn relies too much sometimes on quirky humor
I agree.
in a lot of his stuff,
He
and
can get real quirky.
some of it works, some of it doesn't, and
There's
I
a-
don't think it's going to work across the whole DCEU
There's
or
a
whatever he's
moment
going to do.
I'm gonna spoil a moment in Guardians 3 that doesn't spoil the plot. It's just
No, you're
it's
fine.
just-
You can-
just
yeah,
a
it's fine.
scene. I'm normally not shocked by this kind of stuff, but this scene legitimately kind of slapped me in the face. Where Chris, have you seen Volume 3?
I have not seen it either.
Yeah.
Okay, there's
Womp womp.
the long and short is fine. The long and short, there's some people who are trapped in some pens, and the Guardians are trying to free them towards the end of the movie. And there's the scene where what's the girl with the antennae?
Mantis.
Mantis, that's it.
Tom
Mantis.
Clementif.
Yes. Mantis is helping people out of this cage, and she turns around and she turns around and there's this thing standing there, and it's a kind of a monstrous looking creature, kind of dilapidated and hunched and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, help me. And Mantis physically screams and steps back. And I'm like, if we're being honest with the scene, the film kind of just did some really awkward disabled shaming. Like,
oh, I was wondering where you're going. Interesting.
And it's one of those things, like I said, like it's in another context, in another movie, in another comedy. Like,
he doesn't preach what he doesn't. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
it's really hard for me to talk about James Gunn.
Yeah, it was a really weird moment for me because it's like, I'm not really like precious with things that I watch. People were crying because Thor was fat, and it's fat shame. It's not fat shame. He's just fucking fat now.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Every guy goes through that. I mean,
yeah.
A couple beers.
It's a bulking phase, guys.
Yeah.
You got to bulk before the lift.
All right.
Yeah. But that scene really, because I turned to my wife and I was like, she's like, that was weird. Like, we like dark comedy, but like that was, where did that come from?
Similar with his issues with Peacemaker. We had this issue where we were, have you seen it?
No, but
okay, so I'm not going to spoil anything, but it took us like 3 episodes to really kind of commit to it, because throughout the first 3, we'd be like, okay, this is pretty good. We're enjoying it. And then something stupid would happen because he's got to be crude. He has to add his stupid 90s kind of like sitcom sense of humor that just doesn't work on everything.
Yes.
And we would be like, this is awful. And then we're like, all right,
it would swap like every 10 minutes. It was like, oh, this is bearable. Oh, this is terrible.
This is terrible.
Interesting.
And then it would just go right back. And eventually it kind of hit like a balance point, or it just became endearing because we had powered through it. But
the first, so it'll take you like 3 episodes to finally really get
worth
into
a watch,
it.
I think. But it can be, I think it's a hit or miss one.
Yeah, I remember listening to the Zach on the Always Hold On to Smallville podcast, and they were he was talking similarly about the I think James going to just announce Superman, and they were talking about that announcement, stuff like that, and the general concern was like, James Gunn really likes his D-list characters. He likes being weird and zany.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
It won't work.
People are expecting
because there's less restrictions on him.
People are expecting Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. They're expecting the big ones. And I don't know. I think it was Salty that said like he would have better off completing Snyderverse and then letting everybody kind of have their last big movie together and then revamp everything instead of just keep picking and choosing who he wants to keep. And then
James Gunn's New 52.
Yeah, and then letting go of Cavill, which was a big fan.
That was so
how can you let go of Cavill but keep Gal Gadot? But or Ben Affleck and all
now
this
she's
stuff.
not been kept. Now she's the whole thing is that's why I totally get why some of these movies are bombing and not making much money, because people are like, they're so used to the Marvel, everything's connected, and now everyone's like, well, are these connected? Is just some
the problem with
weird
DCU is they
They
didn't
rushed
spend the time. Yeah, Chris was saying that we were my husband will make this point all the time. They rushed it. They saw what Marvel did and thought they could just get to the end line instead of seeing. It took Marvel like 10 years.
They didn't want to do the work. They just said,
10
I want
years.
that.
Yeah.
I want that for us.
The only movie I would say is the new Batman, because it's Andy Muschietti directing it, and I like him.
He did the Flash. I'm not excited for that.
He came in because there was multiple director switches at the Flash, so Andy Muschietti was able to get a movie into theaters with the garbage that he was handed to. But I like his other stuff, and I liked it 1 and 2, which he did.
It. God.
Oh, I loved it. I'm a big Stephen King head.
I didn't find it scary. I was laughing. We've got some pauses.
I'm good.
Okay, you're back.
You can hear me?
I'm back.
Yes.
She's
Okay.
back.
That was
Well, that's okay.
Pennywise.
This is a perfect segue for me to jump into. You guys reminded me. I want to jump back real quick. There was one other thing from the Flash that made it worthwhile besides the multiverse. Nick Cage Superman.
Yes.
I actually loved that. Watching him fight the giant space spider.
Yeah, I mean, I I didn't hate that moment. It was probably the most. It was very indulgent, that whole sequence of all
Oh,
the
yeah.
of the past and all that kind of stuff. It just I don't know if it was earned. It
No, it
was
wasn't earned.
None of the DCU was earned.
The whole Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage as Superman is overblown. That's
I
all.
mean, you know what I would be okay with, and I would watch it and I'd be happy if they just didn't animate. If they animated that script and Nick Cage voiced Superman, I would
that would have
watch
been
it.
better. That would have been better.
Ever since
Well-
they released that documentary, like what 5-6 years ago or something like that, where they talked about it, that whole movie and the process and everything. I'm like, just animate it. You would make so much money.
Well, the problem was they were trying to do Flashpoint this whole freaking time, and it's not Flashpoint. And
No.
I understand nobody wants another origin story. Okay, I get it. Nobody wants another origin story. But Flashpoint is
broke
the
you
end
down.
point. Flashpoint is the end point that you're leading up to. It's
Pathfinder.
not where you start, and it's not even Flashpoint.
No. I
All
love
right, we're
Pathfinder's
totally
comment.
off topic.
I
from
know
Blade.
the Flash blows and sucks at the same time.
Same time.
It's true.
You know what?
And
Whatever.
it does it
I
quickly.
liked it.
Well, we can actually tie this back into Blade, because what was interesting for me is Blade. I've always kind of felt this way. I always have given the X-Men movies the credit for how the MCU could even exist.
Interesting.
Kind of in the same way that I give Smallville credit for the way that the Arrowverse is even able to exist.
Oh,
So-
look, I have a feeling you like Smallville. I've never seen it, so
I love Smallville. There's Clark. There's Clark right there. There he is. And yes, sure, there were definitely films beforehand, and like the Godfather of all of this is Donner's Superman. Who without that we definitely wouldn't have any of this stuff. In terms of the modern stuff that we have now, I kind of view X-Men as the thing that showed that you can do something on a mass market PG-13 that was going to get a lot of attention, and then you got Spider-Man, and just kind of blew up from there. It blew up rockily. They had Daredevil and Elektra and the Fantastic Four movies. It was definitely a rocky start, but it was proving itself along the way. And when you culminate in something like Days of Future Past, you're like, God damn, like that's, for me, Days of Future Past beats Endgame and Infinity War. Like
really,
oh yeah,
I liked it. I thought it was really good reboot of the whole X-Men thing, but I don't know if it
I
beats
view Days
Infinity
of Future
War.
Past as the end. Days of Future Past is the end for me, where it's like that concludes Fox
Interesting.
X-Men. There's I don't care enough. Anything after that is just supplementary, and you don't need it. Like Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix. They can
Nobody
never
knows
do
what you're
Dark.
talking about.
No, nobody.
Those aren't
No,
real.
they'll
They
never.
I
They'll
agree.
never do a Dark Phoenix properly. They've tried it twice now. It's never
Yes.
gonna happen, guys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Fantastic Four as well. This
Yeah.
new
Let's say, so it's the
Fantastic
only way
Four
to
is
find
gonna be
out
over.
how
Yes.
Fantastic Four turns out.
Yeah. So like for me, I'm going on an X-Men tangent. So for me, it's like I accept 1, 2, and 3. I accept the Wolverine, and then Days of Future Past. That's the end.
What about Logan?
Logan is like different universe. It's
Interesting.
that's not set in that world. That's intentionally set in some sort of alternative, multiversey sort of thing, because they just wanted to do their own thing. So I like Logan, but I don't count it in terms of like a continuity thing.
Other than Logan and obviously Deadpool, but that's now. Other than Logan, has there ever been another R-rated Marvel movie besides Blade at the time?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
No.
Were the sequels R-rated too?
Probably that. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm assuming so.
But it's interesting when you watch it. When you had watched it, do you
Yeah.
feel that if it was now, it was released now,
Yes.
do you think it would have gotten an R-rated rating or a PG-13?
That's a good point. I don't know, because the amount of blood might have still kept it at an R rating.
I think it'd be PG-13.
Well, I'm just thinking about Tarantino's some of his recent movies, like
Once Upon a Time,
Django Unchained, and stuff like that. There's a lot of blood.
There's a lot of
And-
blood, but it's the blood in this one I don't think is that impactful as it is in Django Unchained, because it's a fantasy in a sense
Yes.
setting.
Yes.
I think honestly it would get a PG-13, and I think they would
Possibly.
probably have toned down a little bit of the blood.
Possibly, and I think what worked for me was that it was just full on R-rated. Like the violence was grim. They're chopping off hands. There's stubs and all that kind
CGI.
of stuff. and I think that's what worked for it the best. It was able to lean into the goriness of it. I think when they try and tame the goriness, like for example, there's one scene that's good in Apocalypse, and that's when they redo the Alkali Lake Wolverine scene, and where he's breaking out, when Weapon X is breaking out. That's the only good scene in that movie. And it's like, we finally saw like a bloody Wolverine in a PG-13 X-Men movie. They didn't do that in X-Men 2. That was a very, very different
Do you
time.
think that's the problem with Marvel nowadays? Is because they're associated with Disney, right? And they want to market towards children in the parks.
Yes.
So they're taking IPs like Daredevil, Punisher, even Hawkeye. I feel should have been R-rated. And majority of the people watching these things are people who have been with them for the first 10 years. So we're all adults. We've all grown up. With Marvel. So do you think they're afraid to kind of teeter into that? Because I know initially the
Disney
new
pussies.
the new Blade reboot is supposed to be R-rated, right? And the new
not
Daredevil is supposed to be R-rated, mature rated as well. But I'm like,
Exactly.
I don't trust you, Disney. I feel like they're not going to do it.
No.
I'm very
Not on
excited for
Disney.
the new Blade.
Not put it on Disney Plus. No way.
No.
Mm-mm.
And
I'm
I
not
guess
excited for the new Blade at all.
No.
Not at all.
And I guess
Ursula Lee's cool, but
There's
He
no
is.
but the rumors kept coming out that they've toned down the fight scenes because he doesn't want to do the stunts, and it's more of a story, like a character story. I'm like, what? I want to see Blade with a badass sword cutting down vampires. I don't want to see him crying. I'm sorry. It's just
not a superhuman individual slicing, stabbing, and
Yes.
shooting his way through an adventure.
Yeah,
Yes.
no. That I'm not
If you're
I was
too
gonna
old,
ask
get
about
out.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the new Blade. I have no interest in it, but to bring my point back is, I think Blade I kind of view as like, if we're gonna use like some sort of, I always like, I don't know, I use a Christian allegory. Blade is like John the Baptist. Blade sort of like set the stage, paved the way, and then X-Men came, and yes, I'm equating X-Men with Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
That to me was like, they were like, okay, this works. This was successful. Can we reach a bigger audience with another Marvel property? Can another Marvel property with a lower rating, be done be done in a real-esque world, taking the thing a little bit more serious rather than like the Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, and even the hyper gothic returns and stuff, and also sort of maybe get rid of the campiness of Donner's Superman movies, because there is an element of campiness to that.
Oh, like The Crow. Oh wait, sorry, you guys haven't seen that.
Yeah.
No, we haven't.
I have the graphics somewhere. It's over
You
here.
have the graphic?
I do.
I have the graphic. I put it on your TBR.
Oh yeah, it's my TBR comic stacks like this
There's that
big.
where the other one. There's a whole.
Not including my book.
about
My book stack
there.
is
I'm
higher,
going
but
about
my
that.
actual comic book TBR is pretty.
Oh,
Hole
right.
in my collection, right about there.
There it is. There it is. So yeah, so I there are other things that I think kind of help pave the way. Like, I think the very first Ninja Turtle movie is another one.
That's another banger.
Yeah, there's these things that kind of like set things up, and then I just think everything began to click with X-Men, and studios began to realize, oh, here's what you can do, and here's how it can work. And I think that's why Iron Man 1, I think, is a very good movie. The subsequent movies, once Disney takes over,
I can see that.
they're like, Iron Man 1 is interesting. Iron Man, there's people smoking, there's people cussing. Tony Stark has a one-night stand. All that is gone the minute Disney took over.
Because Disney has to polish it up. Do you think the MCU would be better off if Disney hadn't had their hands? I mean, it's kind of be as big as they are now because with Disney backing them with the money.
I think they were always on that trajectory.
You think they were always on the trajectory of Endgame?
Yeah.
They didn't need, not necessarily they were going to do, like, I think everyone kind of pretends that Marvel had this big epic plan. They were flying by the seat of their pants. Avengers 2 was meant to be Thanos. So then Whedon was like, no, make him later on down the line. We'll do.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's there's their plan has not been that stable, and you can see it every time they announce stuff. The whole thing just gets
Oh.
rejumbled every time. So
After Endgame, I just the last one for me
Yeah.
was No Way Home, and then that was it. Everything
Yeah.
after that, just WandaVision I liked, but that's a
Yeah.
different story. But everything else, garbage to me.
But I do think, if the minute Disney, it was announced that Disney bought Marvel, I sunk in my chair. I was like, oh, that sucks. I'm not a Disney fan. I like certain Disney things, but
all these independent Marvel things that were spread around, like Hulu and Netflix. Like for Netflix, obviously it was with Daredevil, Punisher, but Hulu also had one of their horror ones too that was really good that only got one season. And for them to be across all of these, I think did better off for them because the studios can decide what style, what rating, what they were going to approach to, where Disney has to do it to be able to make the toys, put them in the parks and stuff. They have to all fit a certain plan where the other studios are like, you know what? This can be mature rating. Let's really kind of go off the wall with this stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's what was so interesting when Daredevil was coming out, and they were taking a card from Blade's book where it was super violent, it was super bloody.
It was great.
It was,
Charlie Cox is amazing.
Charlie
Perfect.
Cox is brilliant. Like the current book that I'm writing at the moment, I've mentally cast Charlie Cox as the lead. Like he's like that. But
he's Daredevil. From this point on, he will always be Daredevil due to Netflix.
Yes.
No matter what role comes afterwards.
Yes.
Just like how Elijah Wood is always going to be Frodo.
Frodo Baggins. Yes. I agree.
Oh, Mr. Frodo.
I don't know. It's a shame because then like Netflix and Disney, like there was this weird sort of like we need to make sure that Netflix isn't connected to anything suddenly, and I never really quite understood why they magically did that. When I thought, what would have been a cool scene in Infinity War was having a street scene that shows, Jessica Jones, that shows Daredevil, that shows these guys doing something on a street level, or even doing that in Civil War. Actually, Civil War would have made way more sense.
Way more
that
sense.
Film is
Jessica Jones with David Tennant.
Endgame.
Yeah. Jessica
something.
Jones season 1 with David Tennant is just mint. That is so perfect, so creepy and well done. But again, these are all adult themes, and they're adult themes in the comics as well, and they don't fit the Disney brand. No. So when they announced Blade, I was like, really? They're gonna reboot Blade? This does not fit Disney's.
No.
Disney's. Do you see Blade walking around the parks with his samurai swords and guns? Like, no.
It's gonna.
Where are they gonna put him?
No, it's gonna be Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze version of Blade, where it's like they fight with children's toys in a children's toy store.
But it doesn't make sense.
I like that scene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nailed it. I loved it.
I mean, Donnie is my favorite. I'm a big Donatello.
Have you read The Last Ronin?
Last Ronin? I was just about to ask that.
I got it the other day, and I've only read the first issue, and I was like, this is freaking great.
Oh, it's real good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing that.
Good.
Radiant Black and Last Ronin are the two comics Chris can't stop talking about.
See, my Last Ronin's right there, and then my Radiant Black is right there.
Radiant Black. Okay, I'll hunt down.
What's the other one, Chris, with the wrestling and the necromancy?
Oh yeah, Do a Powerbomb from Image. It's such a weird comic, but it is so good. That's also directly. I'm just gonna grab it. Everybody should see this.
Go grab it. Grab it. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what happens with Marvel MCU Blade. I think it's gonna be.
I don't know. I feel with the strikes happening, a lot of these projects might just disappear for a while. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, because I feel their next focus honestly should be Fantastic Four if they want to win any favors back from fans.
Yeah, but look who they're like. There's one person they've casted for Fantastic Four who is exciting, which is the guy from The Bear to play Ben Grimm is the Thing.
That's not casted. That's a rumor that he's going to be in the movie, but they haven't announced. He should,
because that's like a perfect casting.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
let's see this book.
This one's really good. Necromancy and wrestling.
Yeah. Luna Steelrose wants to be a pro wrestler. She's living under the shadow of her mother, the best to ever do it. Everything changes when a wrestling-obsessed necromancer asks her to join the grandest pro wrestling tournament of all time, which is also the most dangerous. It's The Wrestler meets Dragon Ball Z in a tale where competitors get more than they ever bargained for.
That's amazing. Dear God.
Yes, no, I recommend. This was like recommended to me on the fly at one of our local comic shops, and like this recommendation is the sole reason why I go back to that shop.
Oh, that's amazing. That sounds
It was
insane.
just a random awesome. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect, and it was great.
Oh,
We're totally off topic in this.
We are. Well,
It's okay.
Fine. It's
all
fine,
right.
though.
It's all right. Everybody knows Blade 1998. Awesome. New Blade is gonna suck.
Yes.
Yes.
Conclusion.
Yes. So sometimes what okay, what I do sometimes with like film reviews, stuff like that, I've picked this up. Me and my friend kind of jokingly started doing this, where if you've ever listened to, again, God damn it, I got to bring up Smallville. If you've ever listened,
It's okay.
to,
It's all right. It's a healthy obsession.
It is. I tell you what, it's a show that hit at the right time for me, because it started at when I was just about to get into high school, and it's Clark in high school, and then it just like, for me, it was like that perfect. It was like, for me, it was like Harry Potter. Like the kids who grew up with Harry Potter, I grew up with Smallville, and that's probably why.
I've never seen a single episode of it. The only Superman series I've ever seen is the one with Dean Cain.
That's shit.
Yes.
The Adventures of Lois.
The Adventures of Lois and Clark. I have a graphic novel for that as well.
God, I'm not surprised. Okay, go watch just the first episode. Smallville is one of those few.
Do you think
shows...
it holds up, though? Do you think it holds up?
He's gonna say. I could tell you before you even asked him, he was gonna say yes, regardless.
It holds up with asterisks.
Okay.
With asterisks, there are definitely episodes that I don't even say they don't hold up, but I remember even at the time being like, this is a bad episode. Oh, this is a great episode. It's a bit like X-Files.
Isn't one of the actresses in some weird sex cult?
She was in a sex cult and went to jail and has, I think, been released. And it is very. They talk about it on the Smallville Rewatch podcast. It's so funny hearing the guy who played Superman, the guy who played Lex Luthor, be like, "What the fuck? Did you know?" And Clark's like, "No, I didn't know.
I never got invited."
Yeah. I think the last of those. I think Chris and we watched The Flash for a couple of seasons and Arrow.
Yeah,
and I think it's when
Grant Gustin is The Flash.
Yeah.
What's the spinoff from The Flash? League of
Legends of Tomorrow.
Started. I was like, I'm out. I'm done. I'm out with all of them, because you have to watch crossovers. I was like, nope, no interest. I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm done.
That burnt me out on Multiverse. That was enough.
That's because that's their own multiverse.
I was like, I'm done.
Craziness.
I'm done.
Yes, but Chris is right. Grant Gustin's the better Flash.
He was a good Flash. Flash was good for about 2 seasons. Nah, 1.5. 1.5 is about all it kept me. It's
the WB.
Yeah, CW. But
CW.
Yeah, right.
CW.
Yeah.
Come on.
CW.
I still think about it as the WB. I'm like, it's the WB. Why'd they change it?
CW.
Yeah. What is it? Yeah, but no, I would say go back and watch the first episode. It holds up. It holds up.
I've got to rewatch Haunting of Hill House, and then I'll dive in. I'll try it out.
Why?
I'm on a guest spot for episode 6, the one that they did the long camera.
Well, because it's
and first of all, back up. Yeah, I love Flanagan. I will watch anything. Midnight Mass is like life changing,
excellent
for me, to the point where Chris bought me the really nice art book for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever seen it?
I didn't.
No.
No, I've seen the Haunting of Hill House. But no, not the other. I liked most of the first season.
Tread carefully, my friend.
I didn't see the second. I didn't see the second season.
So, second season let a lot of people down because they expected it to be as scary as the first season. And I get it. If it didn't scare you, I understand your tolerance might be a little bit different. But for normies, it scared a lot of people. But the second season is more of a love story about grief and stuff, like a ghost story added to it. But it's not as severe with the horror.
Yes.
Is there a pottery scene?
Kind of.
Like I loved all those little bits where there's like you can see things in the background, and there was a lot of really cool stuff. I
really watch Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass.
I really think you're gonna enjoy it.
Chris doesn't usually like these shows.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think you're going to enjoy it.
Chris usually doesn't like these shows with me.
I don't.
And
okay.
I pleaded for him to watch Midnight Mass.
The ending is phenomenal.
Watch Midnight Mass. It's a story about forgiveness and your relationship with God and what happens afterwards and your relationship with death. And it's a vampire story as well, included into it. A lot of Salem's Lot added into influence, obviously, because Flanagan's very influenced by King. I
Right.
mean, he did Doctor
yeah,
Sleep.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he's
And
also
I
doing.
like Doctor Sleep. That was a good movie.
Okay,
I enjoyed
yeah, I would say Midnight Mass is peak for me. I
Okay.
know he's got The Fall of Usher coming out in a few weeks,
Yes.
and I know he's working on Dark Tower with Amazon Studios series.
Yeah, Amazon, man, that's a hit and miss. Everything with Amazon is hit and miss. It's like
Some of them are good, some of them
it's
like
bizarre.
Rings of Power.
Oh god, that was terrible. I couldn't even hate watch that. I just couldn't even give them the view. I just couldn't do it.
Nah.
That's also a thing. Like, if they just didn't make it Lord of the Rings and just called it something else, I think it would have at least gotten like a slightly higher score than it did. I think having to base Rings of Power against Lord of the Rings is 100% its undoing. Otherwise, it would have just been a generic fantasy that everyone would have gone, eh.
Yes. And fighting Lord of the Rings fans, and then just destroying the lore. Yeah, that's a mistake.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing I was gonna say was, for me, it was the ending of the first season, the wrap up, that I think I didn't quite land for me. But I liked.
Oh, for Haunting of Hill House.
Yes, but I think I liked everything right up until the end, so I enjoyed like 90% of it. And then just I didn't.
I'm telling you, Midnight Mass will change your views about your relationship with God if you have one. Yeah,
the world will change.
I'm serious. And like I thought Chris was gonna dip out maybe after the first episode, because he'll usually give 1 or 2 episodes about stuff I'm interested.
Party doesn't stop, Chief.
Yeah, and he stuck with me all the way to the end.
Okay.
God, I want to rewatch that now, but now I gotta rewatch that.
Chief Brody Rules has entered the chat. He says, "Oh, it's still going on." Woo!
I know. This is probably your longest one.
You got a Ric Flair.
I have done some epic streams in the past. I think I've done like a couple of 3-hour streams. One with Chief Brody Rules, I believe, and I think one of my what you call it, She-Hulk episodes went for about 2.5-3 hours.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
I would not want to talk about that piece of garbage.
It was. Oops. Yep. Yeah. Sorry, Frank. Nope. I've not seen Midnight Mass, but I'll watch it. I'll watch it sometime.
It's life-changing, my friend.
I don't know if I go life-changing, but it's excellent.
For me, it is. It was life-changing.
Fair enough.
Yes. Yeah, that was right. Yeah, we did one with Frank and his camera died. That's right.
I just realized too, my nerd doll face is missing a D.
Oh yes.
Your nerd all face.
Does anyone has anyone noticed we're way off topic now, but has anyone noticed on Twitter or X, whatever the fuck it's called now, when you like try and at someone and you start to type in their name, like it just doesn't bring up the person you're looking for?
Yes.
And is this like some new goddamn what?
I think it's a glitch. We also noticed that GIFs don't work anymore.
Damn GIFs.
Yeah, sometimes GIFs work, sometimes they don't.
Fix this, Elon. Fix this.
Narcissistic piece of
shit.
Do
the Family Guy monkey.
Wow.
He's a nut job.
He's
he's a nut job, but he got Amber Heard to dress up as Mercy from Overwatch.
Yeah, but Amber Heard is a
nut job too.
Oh, speaking of Amber Heard and Aquaman,
Amber Turd,
bringing this back to comics. James Wan, I saw some headlines earlier today where someone was like, "Oh, is Ben Affleck or anyone else in this movie?" And he was like, "This movie is totally not connected to anything."
Oh yeah, because they had to do reshoots on it, right? Because they brought Ben in, and then they decided not to do Ben. So I guess, from my understanding, is the studio doesn't want to put any more money towards this movie and just wants to and it has already kind of written it off and just wants to throw it out there and see what happens. Yeah. But I feel bad for James Wan, but at the same time, I'm like, James Wan's the last person I would hire to do a comic book movie that is a fantasy. If it was Blade, maybe. He's a horror guy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Use him in his element.
Maybe what Multiverse of Madness was supposed to be.
Yeah, use him in his element. I mean, we just rewatched both the Insidious and the Conjuring universe with our friends to work through it, and I'm like, this is his element, except for Malignant. I did not like Malignant.
Oh, Malignant was terrible.
It was terrible. It was garbage.
I've seen some of those. See, I'm not a massive horror guy, so I don't watch like that sort of horror. Like horror for me is like Jaws. Or
That's horror for you?
yeah, it's technically a horror movie. It's technically a horror.
What malignant is art? So is a banana duct taped to a canvas. Doesn't mean it's good.
Man,
Love you long time.
Yeah.
Oh god.
You're not a horror man. Horror's my jam. That's
I like
what
horror, but I don't
Nah,
seek it
man.
out and watch it that often.
It's all I watch. Sometimes it's to the point where Chris is like, "You need to stop watching this stuff before you go to bed, because you always have nightmares, so you're always cranky in the
I
morning."
don't sleep so good.
And I'll be
Usually you
listening to
fall
like a
asleep
horror
listening to true
podcast
crime or
or
horror.
horror. Yeah, but
I mean-
I love horror. It's like
Yeah.
the solo genre that I will go out of my way to go to theaters and
Right.
read and stuff. I don't
Right.
like most other genres. I don't like romance. I don't like
Interesting.
dramatic pieces are fun. I'm excited for what's a Flower Killing Moon one? What's a Scorsese's new
yes.
one?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go see that. But
Yeah.
yeah, horror. You want horror recommendations? I got you, my friend.
Okay, there we go. We can now come to you for my horror recommendations. I meant to do I did a Scream retrospective a few months ago, which was a lot of fun because I'd never seen Scream. Shock and horror.
We're doing Scream for so our buddy Gary is going to be joining us for a in-depth review of all the Scream movies, or we call
Ooh.
them Spooky Impossible, since there are
7
similar
of
to
them.
there will be 7 of them. 6 just came out.
Right. Oh, there you go.
7 will be
Yes.
directed by the same guy who did Happy Death Day 1 and 2, which Chris really enjoys. And
I love Happy Death
Freaky.
Day.
I think it's Freaky as well, with Vince Vaughn as the villain in that movie, or the serial killer in it.
Okay.
Yes, we're gonna do a whole in depth because Chris has
I
never
love
seen
that.
any of them.
Yes,
I've only
I have
seen a
also not
couple of
seen
them
Scream.
out of order. What
I
did
like
I think
that.
of Megan? I thought Megan was okay.
It was aight.
It was fun. It was fun. That's how I look at it. It was fun. It was over the top. It's
I at
no
least like what they were trying
Chucky.
to do.
It's no Child's Play, but I could see it hitting for modern day children, like modern day
Mm.
kids who are into horror. I'm selective horror enjoyer. Happy Death Day
Yes.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Have you seen Happy Death Day?
No, he's not a
Uh,
horror guy.
No, but he doesn't mean he hasn't seen random horror here and there.
That's true.
Happy
that's
Death
true.
that's a great place to jump in. That is a light
It's-
start.
Think Groundhog Day,
Groundhog's Day.
but horror.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That could be
Yeah.
fun. I would
Yeah.
see. I'm not opposed to, like, I don't like. Oh, okay. Well, I just don't. But that I would watch that. So yeah, like I said, we did a Scream retrospective a while ago. So me and my friend who joined me for that one, we're gonna do a triple feature during some point in October, where we're gonna chat Blair Witch, The Others, and From Dusk Till Dawn.
I love The Others, and I love Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes. So
The other one I
of
could
the-
get.
of the 3, I've only seen The Others, and I love The Others.
Yes,
I've only seen
The
Dusk Till
Others is,
Dawn.
Others is underrated.
Yes.
People don't appreciate that movie for what
Yes.
it is.
I remember the first time I watched it. I was a kid, and I was like, "This film is great." Like that twist, great. Totally loved it.
When twists back
yeah.
then you didn't
Meant
see coming, but now
Yes.
you see them all coming. Yeah.
Oh God, yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's nuts. Chief Bird Rules says Luke doesn't watch movies. I do. I do. I rewatched Godzilla 2000 the other day, which is a wonderful cheesy movie.
But not the Puff Daddy one that came out before it. What was it?
Oh yeah,
1994,
Godzilla 1998.
1998 with that really retrospective music video. Yeah.
Matthew
With,
Broderick.
Matthew Broderick. Yes.
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 I
What
liked
were
that
they
movie
doing?
back when I
What
saw
were
it in
they
theaters.
doing in the 90s, man? Like you had
A lot of coke.
1990,
A lot
yeah,
of coke.
1998. You had that movie come out with Puff Daddy. Then you had the year before you had Batman and Robin with oh shit, what was it? Is it R. Kelly? Who's the guy who sings the song Gotham City of Love, City of Peace?
I think it might have been
It's no
yeah.
City of Love, City of Peace. What are you doing?
Gotham City is Chicago in my mind.
You
That's what
know.
I see.
Always will be.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. See, okay. So if we're gonna chat Batman for 2 seconds, like this
2
is what I
seconds.
loved- well, you know what I mean. This is what I loved about Batman Begins. I loved the use of Chicago, but also there was he added an extra sort of gothic-y element to it that was really fun. But then he totally got rid of all of that with the sequel. With like I don't understand why Wayne Enterprises was a completely different building.
bigger budget.
I don't.
It was
understand.
just another Wayne Enterprises. He has several
Like,
of them.
Yes.
Where did the train go? Where did that train go that his dad's family built?
Have you seen the Batman?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
I enjoyed it mostly. It's way
Okay.
too long.
That's what we always say. We call it 3 days long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is.
it's way too
long.
long. The Penguin is superfluous. The Riddler, really the main villain is Falcone. The Riddler is just sort of there.
Felt very Seven to me. Very.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot
Absolutely.
of influences from there.
Yes, and I think, you know, I like Robert Pattinson. I like that he was mostly Batman throughout the thing. Alfred was another pointless character. There's a lot of fat in that movie that could have been
Catwoman,
trimmed.
pointless.
She doesn't add much.
Entirely pointless.
Yeah, you remove her entirely from that movie, you would still have the same movie.
You would, because he just needs to go. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a complicated movie where it's like it was. I liked it more than the other DC stuff that had been coming out.
I liked it, but I wouldn't rewatch it. That's
Yeah,
it, because I feel it's too long.
I rewatched it once because me and Frank chatted about it, did I chat about it with someone? I can't remember. I chatted about it with people in the past, so I rewatched it one time, and I feel like that's enough. I don't know if it will be a long time before I ever feel the need to go back and rewatch it. The music was funny to me because the main theme. I don't know if you might not know this artist. It's an American artist that I listened to when I was a kid called John Rubin. Does that name ring a bell?
Sounds familiar, but
at all?
Yeah.
Not
Like
for me.
it rings a bell, but I wouldn't be able to place it.
He was a rapper there's like a white guy rapper in the early 2000s, and he has this song called Freedom to Feel. And when the Batman score released, I was listening to the theme, that dong 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 dong. I was like, that's fine, but this is like, I had that Spider-Man 3 moment. That's familiar or similar or whatever.
Mhm.
And then I was like, oh my god, it's the same bass line, the exact same bass line from this like 2006 song that wasn't like a massive hit, but was big enough that I'm like I'll send it to you afterwards. It literally just sounds exactly the same. It's the same rhythm, everything. It's like boom, 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 boom. I'm like, this is nuts. Like, such a copy.
My favorite scene from that movie is when he biffs his grapple hook and ends up hitting the top of a car and falling.
Yes.
which I really
yeah.
liked because it made
like
it
that.
feel like Batman's, because in all other Batman movies, most of the time he's perfect at almost everything he does, right? Because he's Batman. He can pretty much, do
Well, this is
whatever.
Year 2 Batman.
This is year
Year
2
two,
because
yeah.
this is young Batman, so he's trying to
Yes.
still figure it out. And when he biffed it, I was laughing. The whole theater was very quiet when he biffed it, and I just started cackling.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It was. Yeah.
Did you like the Joker as well, or no?
That Joker's all right. Again, it's Taxi Driver, isn't it? And
Yeah.
It's
Joaquin Phoenix always plays the weirdest characters. I just
Yeah.
saw Gladiator for the first time, and he's weird in that too.
Yes, he
he's-
is.
He's a
Yes, he
weird,
is.
weird guy. But I liked it, but I don't
Yeah.
think I'm going to like the musical sequel.
I'm interested to see what that's about. I don't know if it's going to get me into the cinema to see it.
Yeah, I don't know. Nah, I'll pass. Hard
Yeah.
pass.
I can't decide. I'm like, eh. I think that for me, the Joker felt like a movie that was retroactively made into a Joker movie. I feel like they had like a serial killer movie, and someone said, "Throw Batman in this, and we'll do it," and they did that.
Yeah,
because it doesn't need to be the Joker. It doesn't need to be Gotham. It
could just be
doesn't-
some deranged guy that
Yeah.
goes off the deep end.
Yeah, that worked for me with its little commentary on the health system and mental health stuff. Like it didn't need the Batman element.
Have you ever listened to Brian Callahan, Chris the
Brian
comedian?
Callen.
Yes, because he was on that. You ever listen to him talk about working
He
with?
talks about it on one of Joe Rogan's podcasts.
Yeah, Joaquin
like in the
Phoenix.
last month or something.
Working
Okay,
how
no.
because he's a method actor, Joaquin. So he's like
Yes.
full in Joker the whole time, and ad-libbed a lot of stuff, and I guess there's a scene in the locker room when they're all comedians changing, and he's like hitting his head on. Like he wasn't instructed to do that. He did that on his own.
Yeah, that
just hurting himself. He half the time they thought he was going to kill himself during this filming because that's how method into it. Yeah. It's a great interview. I would recommend listening to it.
The one thing Brian Callen says in there is, there's the scene kind of where he's at the clown locker room and he kind of has like that breakdown. He ends up punching that punching clock off the wall. It's like that was not a prop. That was not in the script. He punched that clock off the wall.
Oh, wow.
That was just something he ad-libbed.
Interesting. I mean, that sounds intense.
He seems to be a bit intense.
That sounds exhausting, actually.
Yeah, it sounds like... I'm like, I don't think I could work with Joaquin Phoenix. No, thank you. I mean, much respect to the guy. Most of his roles are really great. I like his stuff, but at the same time, I'm like, you're a little cuckoo for me. A little cuckoo with Cocoa Puffs.
But would you rather work with Joaquin Phoenix playing the Joker or Jared Leto playing the Joker, who was sending people like dead rats and stuff?
Oh, Joaquin Phoenix, 100%, because he would leave you alone. Yeah. Fuck that other guy. Oops, sorry. Yeah. Forget that other guy. Jared that was Leto, horrible.
Man. What a terrible I love Blade Runner 2049, except for his moments.
I liked his band for a while, 30 Seconds to Mars. I would listen to it.
They have a couple of good songs.
Pretty good songs. But I've never seen Blade Runner, either of them. So and he's been in a couple other stuff. And anytime he shows up on screen, I'm like, what?
You got to see Blade Runner.
I mean, come on, he was great in Suicide Squad. Wait,
I know.
Hold on.
I feel like
Blade Runner. Wait,
I feel like Blade Runner won't hold up for me.
Yes, it will.
He was great in Morbius.
You think so?
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
I hear the second one is very drawn out and boring.
No,
from what I'm.
Not. Nope. It's long. I admit that it's long.
Okay.
It's not drawn out though. It's very good. I was shocked. I loved it. I'm normally, like I said, I don't like. I am bored and exhausted with long movies. I am totally on board with. I could watch Blade Runner 2049.
Your brother Chief said, "Don't watch it. Don't see it, Nadia."
Well, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Chris, have you seen it?
Which one? 2049? Sorry, participating in the chat.
The first one.
I completely missed the boat on the original Blade Runner, and I tried to watch it like 2 years ago, and I could not get into it.
It depends on what you. It depends on what you're.
You also couldn't get into the Goonies, and I think the Goonies is pretty good.
Whoa! The Goonies is great.
I didn't see the Goonies as a kid, though. I think it's one of those things you have to have the nostalgia there, because the fact of the matter is, Princess Bride is like an untouchable film, and then I've had people say that Princess Bride is, dog dirt, and that. Oh, I agree. But then they'll be like, oh, but the Goonies was a real classic. I'm like, what are you smoking? And is it legal in your state?
Is your buddy Phil referencing the anime Nadia, Secret of the Blue Water? I think he is.
Probably, and yes. I wouldn't have any idea what he's talking about because I don't do. My deep dive into anime is Digimon.
Really?
I love
Demon
Digimon.
Slayer, 100% recommend it.
Digital monsters. Digimon are the champions.
They are.
Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen.
Got one right there.
Yeah, Jujutsu's really good.
Chris likes Hero Academia. Yeah.
I love All Might.
I guess the thing to remember with Blade Runner, because I gotta get this out. With Blade Runner, the thing to remember is it's neo noir. It's private. It's a private detective, essentially. Think Philip Marlowe in a futuristic dystopian world where the world is.
Did it come out right around The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
It came out like 82.
When did The Running Man come? Because I feel it look. So I always mix up the two when I see, because I haven't seen The Running Man either. 1987. The Running Man.
Blade Runner is a very influential movie.
I know.
Blade Runner came out in 1982.
Okay, so Running Man is influenced by probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do love Running Man.
The score is amazing for Blade Runner. Vangelis's music is.
Don't talk it up. I'll watch it. I will watch it. Okay. But don't do this because they were giving me crap about The Crow, and then everybody's talked up The Crow, and I feel and I feel the pressure because I watched I watched Gladiator a couple of days ago with Chris for the first time, and Chris loves this movie. Everybody loves Gladiator. They think Gladiator is, I don't know, Jesus Christ.
She was not entertained.
It's not that I wasn't entertained.
It's good.
It's a good movie, but it's, to me, it's not as good as everybody has hyped it up to be. Like I enjoyed the first watch. Would I watch it again? Probably not. Do I understand? I do not understand how they're going to get a sequel out of this.
Yeah,
but
it's weird.
Everybody hypes up these movies like Crow, Blade Runner, and I don't want to feel like, oh, it's great.
I also think, I do think with Blade Runner, I think it needs to find you at the right time.
Okay.
Because it was one of those movies that I've always heard about, I mean, and just never watched. And being a noir guy, like, my thing is I write crime fiction. I write PI stuff. I love that whole kind of that genre. So the idea that I just never went to this was odd. But then I finally, the day that I actually sat down and watched it, it all clicked for me because it was just everything that I loved.
Okay. I mean, I do like noir. I mean, one of my favorite books series is a fantasy noir. I mean, Dresden Files is crime noir in a sense, kind of like crime noir.
Have you read Dresden Files?
Nope.
Are you familiar?
I don't think so. The name rings a bell.
A lot of people find the first book a little rough. It is. They did a sci-fi show in like the early 2000s. I would just ignore that entirely.
That's probably why it rings a bell.
It's really bad. Yeah. It's really, really bad. It has nothing to really.
Blackthorn in it, but.
Yeah, it's really bad, but the books are really good. It's by Jim Butcher. He also writes a couple other fantasy series, and I think there's like 10 or 12 books out.
Okay.
For Dresden Files? Oh, I think it might be 13 or 14.
What I like about it is for the first couple of books, each book is a different case. Harry's a wizard in Chicago.
Oh, cool.
So, it's fun. Kind of like a veil between fantasy and reality, and he's trying to keep that in tow. And each one is a case that deals with like real repercussions. But what I like about it is that towards what would you say, Chris? Book 8 or 9. Yeah. There's small details
there's
added in each book.
Bits that start leaking in that start becoming a much grander picture.
Story.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. I like there are 17 books, not including the short story so far.
Yes. And there's I think 3 more to go to wrap it up.
3 or 6, I can't remember. I thought it was 23 for some reason.
Something along that lines. But Chris is right. The first one's a little hard to get into. It's his first book. Second one scared the crap out of me. It's about werewolves.
Right.
Yes. Third one's like they're all great. And what I like about it is that I'm gonna go back and actually listen to them this time because who voices the
Spike, James Marsters, Spike from Buffy.
Because that's who Jim Butcher envisioned Dresden actually being if it was ever a live action.
He played Brainiac on Smallville.
See, it all comes back. It's all
there we go.
Back. Yes. Back to Smallville. But yes, I would recommend them. They're fun. They're just
I like
fun
that
books.
Actually.
They're pretty quick to blow through.
Yeah.
Say again?
They're really
I was saying they're pretty quick to read through.
Okay. Yeah. Have you ever read Ben Arnovich's books, The Rivers of London?
No.
Mm-mm.
So if you like Dresden Files, that you'd probably like that because that is also a fantasy mystery series.
Okay. I'll try it out.
Where it's you have the main protagonist is basically finds out that he is a wizard. It's kind of, if you think Harry Potter meets crime fiction, basically, where
that's what kind of like Dresden is. Yeah.
So it's Harry Potter meets Harry Dresden.
Harry Dresden.
There you go.
Yeah.
You'd probably like. I remember reading the first book many years ago. There's a good number of them now. Rivers of London. If you find those, you'll probably like them if you like this then, which means I'll probably like this. So I'll pick up Stormfront and Full Moon and give it a go.
Right now I'm reading his other fantasy series called Codex of Valeria, which is true fantasy. Like this is 100% fantasy where everybody has an ability called a flurry. Fury. Thank you. I almost called it. Right. One time I texted Chris. I was like, "What furry do you think I would be?" And he's like, "What?" Because he's read these books. He's read these books and I haven't. So I'm reading them. I'm like, what furry? He's like, "What are you talking about?" Like,
the way that series came along, I think it's 4 or 5 books. I can't remember, but it was interesting because he was actually in like a writer's forum. you'd probably appreciate this. So they were kind of like challenging each other to come up with like ideas. And someone essentially told them like, I bet you couldn't write a book, essentially like write a fantasy novel about Pokemon.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then he ended up like, oh wait, this actually works. And then I always remember him telling stories like, so the guy's like, I told you couldn't do it. He's like, no, I'm just not sharing it with you.
If you ever can get him to interview, if you ever can, Jim Butcher seems like a cool guy. I feel like you could.
He'd be down to clown.
He's a good. Yeah, I feel like he would be down to clown. Yeah, 100%.
Jim, Mr. Butcher, please.
Mr. Butcher, please. Yes, I can see it. I've watched a couple of your streams with a couple of the authors. I 100% think you could do it, Luke. You put it out there.
Some of them have been lucky gets.
I'm telling you, put it out there. First of all, read his books first to see if you even like them.
That's true.
But if you do, I feel because he's very low key. Low key. He's not very big on social media. He's not very big on being out there. So I feel like he's a very down to earth guy. So I feel like he would say yes.
Okay. I was just looking at his profile.
And then invite Chris and I on because we'll just sit there staring at him.
And if there's only room for one of us, listen, it should be me.
Yeah, it should be Chris. It honestly should be Chris. Yes, 100%.
That's fine. I'll get his books. I'll see what I think, and then I mean, you know, sometimes I literally just like tweet to people, "Hey, you want to come on my podcast?" And they're like, "Okay." I'm like, "Really?" Like,
yeah, especially because he just dropped.
Yes.
He has another fantasy series. What's it called, Chris?
Was it like the Aeronauts Windless or something like that? It's a steampunk fantasy.
Yeah, and the next book for that is about to drop.
Cool.
And then the next Dresden should be dropping either end of this year or next year. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking this out because that's too strong. I don't read a lot of like high fantasy stuff. I've read Lord of the Rings and I've read like Chronicles of Narnia and I've read Harry Potter. And that's kind of Lord of the Rings is about as high as I get. And yeah. But I do enjoy that kind of stuff where it's like
I'm the same way. I don't like in a sense highbrow fantasy where it's I mean I am enjoying Codex of Valeria, but it's because I know the author and I've already read Dresden Files. Most of the time I read horror. I've been reading Grady Hendrix, who's done a lot of really great horror books like My Best Friend's Exorcism, Final Girls Support, Southern's Book Club's Guide to Killing Vampires. It's a mouthful. So I like his stuff a lot, and I'll probably read his stuff for October because I have one more book to read. Like Chris was saying, How to Sell a Haunted House. Nice. He has another one called Dorff, which is a ghost story, takes place in an IKEA department store. So
that's hilarious.
But I'm with you. I don't read highbrow fantasy, but I do like where it meets reality a little bit. You'll like Dresden then. 100% you'll like Dresden then.
I promise you, no matter how you feel about this, Nadia, back me up. It's literally every book just gets better. I don't think there's ever a dip. I think it always just kind of gets better.
And towards the last books, Chris would hear me go, "Holy shit!" in the background. What?
I go, "What happened this time?"
No, I'm excited to give this a go. Because I'll probably do the audiobook then, because if
Spotify.
But for the audiobook, explain to him, Spotify. Chris, how he kind of
it's on Spotify.
He kind of phones it in a little bit.
Oh,
Chris.
Well, yeah. So James Marsters, who again was the Envisionment, I think he reads all of the audiobooks except for I think one of them, and it's actually really funny because there's like, without giving anything away, like one of like the main like attack spells he casts is like he shoots like fire, and his spell word for it is fuego, and so he'd be like in the first couple books, James Marshall would be reading it, and he'll be like, and there was a vampire, and I cast fuego or whatever. But by the time you get like 3 or 4 books in, he's just like, fuego! He's like getting really into it. It's hilarious. I love it.
So wait, is it? I gotta find it. I'm trying to find it on Spotify. I'll find it later. I'm getting distracted. But
you're finding.
I love how we went from Blade all the way to Dresden series. And
there's vampires. There's vampires in Dresden Files.
There's
lots of
four vampire classes in Dresden Files. Yeah, the Red Court, the White Court, the Jade Court, and the Black Court. Yes.
I like it. I didn't know you could buy audiobooks on.
You could just stream them though.
Yeah, just stream it straight from.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people create playlists with them on.
Oh, weird. Okay, I'll do a hunt. I'll do a hunt.
Okay.
And find it out.
We are now
really
at
cool.
2 hours.
Yes.
I was surprised. We've gone all over the board. I hope.
Next time, what we should do, we'll have a chat that's just going to be called like Nerd Chat.
I love it. Love it. That'd be great. Just like
And
maybe
then
one or two topics just to get us rolling and then
Yep.
go
And
off.
then
Well, once
just
we get it
see-
kicked
see
off, we have to
where
have
it
them on
goes.
Strange Tales from the Internet.
Yes, our live stream is we're starting our own live stream at the end
Oh,
of this
cool.
month called Tales from the Internet.
Nice.
So once we get that rolling, we definitely would love to have you on as a
Oh,
guest.
thank
But
you.
we'll have to figure out time difference because I know you're
Yes.
ahead of us. So
Yeah.
we might make
I
a
can
special
be,
one.
Yeah, I can be a little flexible. I don't mind if. What time do you normally do your thing?
It's usually in the like 4 or 5 p.m. West Coast
Pacific time.
Pacific time. Yeah,
We'll talk. We'll chat about it.
Here, it's
Yeah.
1:40 p.m.
we'll figure it
here,
out.
wherever the
Give us
difference is.
a couple of times to get it rolling, and then we'll figure it out. We'll get from there.
That would be a heck of a lot of fun. I've always wanted to do a little. I've never done it, but there's been times where I've wanted to like do like a feature where I mine Twitter for like ridiculous.
That's what we're doing.
That's
So
the whole premise.
concept of it
I
is
love
that
it.
each
I
of us
love it.
would bring articles or memes or any interesting stories
I
that we haven't shared yet with each other, and then we would do live reactions to
love
it.
it. I
Yes.
love that. That's gonna be fun. And so for everyone listening, tell them where they can find you on the internet.
Oh, so unlike my handle right now, it's actually Nerd Dollface on Twitter. But Chris and I both run a podcast called the Inside All Day Podcast, where we discuss movies, TV shows, books that
Pop
we
culture.
like. Pop culture, yes. It's also where my Dames and Dorks live stream is hosted, which will be tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Pacific time as well. And anything else I'm missing, Chris?
I got one in there. I know we're missing. For everyone out there listening, if you haven't done so yet, don't forget that like, subscribe, that bell notification,
Oh
so you
my
know when
God,
all the new
yes.
shows are coming out.
Yeah, for both our channel and Luke's.
Yeah, all of them. By the way, I was not subscribed to you, so I put you over to, I believe it was like 580. I took you that 9 to a flat 0 again.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, and also Tuesdays I'm on the Salty Nerd live stream when they don't have an in-house guest. I'm the woman perspective.
Yes. And I it's fun. It's fun having you listen to you on the Salty Nerd. That's a lot of fun. There will be a link to your podcast in the description of the
Cool.
video for anyone who's
Awesome, thanks.
who's listening.
Yeah, and our video for Mission Impossible
different
just
time.
dropped today.
Today, yep, brand new video.
I'm excited to listen to your Mission Impossible.
If it gets to 1,000 likes in 2 weeks, Chris will dress
Yep.
up as Ilsa Faust in the green or
In the
yellow dress and do a jiu-jitsu move, and I will film it and put it on the interwebs.
Yep, that's the deal.
That's what I want. I want to see it.
I want to see it the most. Come on, internet.
I don't know that I can do the jiu-jitsu move, but I can definitely wear a yellow dress and try.
Yes.
Because there's questions I want to ask about Mission Impossible, but I won't, because I just won't. I won't.
Well, I'll tell you, Chris's favorite is Rogue Nation.
Interesting.
Right, yeah, Rogue Nation I think is the best one.
It's a good one.
I'm still Fallout.
Fallout for me is number 2. It's number 2.
Number 1 is number 1 for you, right? The
It
first
is number
one?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The bottom of the barrel for me is number 2.
I think we talked about this on
Leave
Twitter.
John Woo alone.
I number 2 is not good. I admit that, but I like it more than 3.
Interesting.
Oof.
3,
And-
everybody kind of is that one with Philip Seymour Hoffman? It's been a
Yes.
while. Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody talked him up as some badass villain, which I did like him, but I wish it was just fleshed out more, just a little bit more.
He's a bit. It's. I don't like J.J. Abrams. Is my problem.
He destroys a lot of things.
He managed to revive Mission Impossible shockingly, but like his Star Trek is fucking awful.
You know, I've
His-
never seen Star Trek except for his movies.
Oh,
He puts things in his mystery box and they never come back out.
God, his goddamn mystery box. I hate this so much. His Star Wars is terrible. Like whatchamacallit, his Goonies stroke whatever that E.T. knockoff. What was that called? Movie that he did back in like the early 2010 or something like that. Well, come on, chat. What was it? Someone tell me. I can't remember. Super 8. Super 8. That was
Super 8.
Yeah, meh.
didn't like that. I just don't. He just isn't interesting enough. He just doesn't have the. He has connection, but which is obviously how he's been as successful as he is. But he doesn't have the.
He's like the Kathleen Kennedy of.
Yeah. It's like she was
Yes.
around for all those movies. She was
That's
doing
just
stuff
mean.
for all those movies. But like, she's just like.
Is it mean or is it true? Okay. So...
I think he's better than that. I don't know.
But
I don't know. I've never seen, like I said, Star Trek. I don't have anything to base it on except for his movies. So
yeah, that's just consider that. Just consider it that you've never watched Star Trek.
oh yeah, I don't think I would be into it, but a lot of people think I would be into Next Generation.
The Next Generation, because it's the best Star Trek.
Now we're getting off topic again. We're gonna go for another 2 hours.
That would be Deep Space Nine.
Oh, you're so close, except it doesn't have Jean-Luc Picard, so you have to be wrong.
It does. He's in the first episode.
Okay, one episode.
And it's got lots of Luoxana Troy, and I love Luoxana. I love her. She's great. Troy's mom. She's rocking up in there all the time. And I love that Cisco just punches Q in the face. And he's like, Picard never punched me. I'm not Jean-Luc Picard. It's like, yeah, you're not.
This guy's from the deep space streets. He'll show you how it's done.
I have no idea. I was watching Farscape and Stargate.
Farscape was so fun. Back when.
I remember those shows, but for some reason I never. I have no reason to not watch them, but I haven't watched. I've never.
I don't think Farscape doesn't hold up very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some of that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, I guess Star Trek is, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. But I would say start with Next Generation and work your way through if you ever wanted to at some point. It's next. I love TOS, Next Gen, and Deep Space Nine. I enjoy Voyager. Enterprise is pretty crap, and but the films, the original Trek films are great with the original crew. I had Nicholas Meyer on my show once, which is insane. But yeah, we chatted Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and that was god, like that film is incredible. That's
God.
Yeah, so good. Anyway, we've been chatting for a very long time. I probably I don't know what's going on with my wife and baby. Maybe they're asleep. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're
we'll let you go.
In distress. It's fine. It's fine. But this was a lot of fun. Everyone, go subscribe to the Inside All Day podcast. Find Nadia on the Salty Nerd quite frequently. Go follow Chris and Nadia on Twitter. And and make sure to like and subscribe and press the bell. I always forget to say that, and that's like I'm saying it at 2 hours and 16 minutes in. Like I should have said it at the beginning. But
hey, folks, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification.
There we go. I'm gonna cut that, and I'm gonna use
Go for it.
Go for it.
Cool. This was a lot of fun. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. I will be back next week with some topic. I'm being very loose at the moment because my PhD is coming to an end, and so
wow.
My Viva is meant to be at the beginning of October, so I'm not really. I haven't planned.
You got a lot on your plate. Yeah. You got
so
a lot.
Whatever I decide to talk about next week will just be probably a random chill stream of me just rambling if I do want it all. So it's a bit up in the air at the moment, but yeah, we'll see you guys later. Adios and have a good evening.